so that way it won't go out on air.
Okay.
All right. That's a good one.
All right. We're going to go live on YouTube right now.
Okay.
Hey, YouTube. How you doing? Dave here. Just hanging out with all of you. I think we're going to do a radio show tonight. We got Merle here. Hey, Merle.
Hey.
Hey. That's a man of many words right there. That's why we call him Merle around here. Man of many words. See? He goes silent then.
I did that. Get ready, Dave, so there's no typing and stuff.
Yes. All right. Let's give a shout out to everybody who is here so far. Go66. Good to see you, Derek. Thank you for coming on in. Bee's Nest, always a pleasure. The gorgeous and talented Becky Belling is here, everyone. The gorgeous Jules is here with her long mane. Yes, you could braid it all the way down to the floor there. Of course you can. Bigfoot Michigan Rob and everybody at Scoreboard, how are you tonight? Let's get to some woo here, shall we? All right. Thank you for coming on in. We really appreciate it. Davey, always a pleasure to see you in the chat room. Raylan, how you doing, man? Good to have you here. Sally, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time in our chat room. We welcome you. I hope you have a good time. Cashew, good to see you here. Xavier, welcome back. Guy Dietrich, welcome. Or is it Guy Dietrich? If you're in Canada, it's Guy. So are you a Guy or a guy? Please let us know. And welcome to our chat room. We're glad you are here. Crystal Light, you know, we love it here. Brett Lewis is here, everyone. That means we can officially start the show. Brett Lewis, back in Space Out Radio's chat room. Who else do we got here? Middle Child, good to have you here. Chocobo, Cat Chaser, thank you for both coming on in. Always appreciate seeing you guys. Renee, you're looking stunning tonight. Mr. Apnea, I hope you are wide awake. Worsley, always a pleasure to have you here, my friend. Hillary, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Glad to have you here. Manitoba Becky's here, everyone. Yes, it is day one that she has not been bitten by a Manitoba mosquito. So we'll give her a little congratulations for that. All right, we're caught up here. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. For some reason, she always wants me to say it 3 times. Must be good luck or something for her. I don't know. All right. We have Merle here tonight for Ghosts of the Great White North. And Gina and Victoria, they are sisters. They have this great website called hauntedhistorybc.com. And we're going to learn a lot about these British Columbia hauntings tonight. And it's going to be a lot of fun. This is their first time. We are taking their radio virginity tonight. Yes, we're going there. All right. You know, and they're a little nervous. Then again, so am I. All right, we're going on in. No, I'm never nervous. Never nervous. But you know what? This is going to be a lot of fun tonight. Hi, Mike F. Welcome. Welcome back. Appreciate you. All right. And what else we got going on here? Hi, Merle.
Hi, Dave.
I'm going to tell you right now, the enthusiasm is totally impressive with Merle tonight. Totally impressive.
I'm recovering from a 5-day ghost hunting binge. So we got lots of spare time.
Oh, yes. Yes. Hey, Fapster and Grandma Rose, how you doing? All right. We've got about a minute and a half here before we get going. So welcome, everyone, to Spaced Out Radio. We appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell thingy, because apparently that tells you when we're on. And, yeah, pretty much almost good to go. Hey, Merle.
Hey, Dave. Can you hear me typing?
Almost. Why? Did you get a new computer keyboard?
No, it's the normal keyboard. I'm just on my Mac, not my MacBook.
Yeah, because... No, it doesn't sound like a jackhammer today. That's nice.
Nope. You won't hear the fan either.
All right. That's good stuff, Merle. Very good stuff. All right. We're about 45 seconds or so. Or no, about a minute here. About a minute. Let's start this up. All right, one feed is on. We're going to have Bill WD-40 come on in and lube us up for the show.
Whew.
Yes. If you can't be lubed up for Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis, I don't know what you're going to do. The Jim Christie is here, everyone, from the UK. The Jim Christie. We could officially start. All right. All right. We got about 30 seconds. Hi, Spookles the Cat. Welcome. Oh, guy like Geyser. Oh, an American geezer. That's funny, guy. That is funny. Welcome to our room, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us, man. Spookles the Cat is here. She takes care of all my social media, so I don't look dumb. Yeah, she's amazing. We absolutely love her. All right. What do you say we do a little bit of a radio show here in like 10 seconds? There he is. Bill WD-40, everyone. Bill WD-40 opening up the Spreaker chat room. He has lubed us up for tonight. We can officially slide on in to this show. Music is on. We are going to have a great time tonight. Hi, Rono. Yeah, I'm ready. I hope you are too. All right, everyone, here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for tuning us in tonight on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Now, if you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Here we go again with another edition of Ghosts of the Great White North as my favorite paranormal investigator, Merle, is back from a paranormal round trip. Yeah, I guess I wrote that. Paranormal round trip to a haunted location here in British Columbia. Tonight, we take a look at Canada's most western province and the hauntings that surround it. Our special guests are from the website hauntedhistorybc.com, as sisters Gina and Victoria join us to tell us about a collection of stories they've recorded and encountered with strange phenomena. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine, which will be a lot of fun as well. Let's kick things off here. Merle, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Dave. Very tired. I did 5 haunted locations in 5 days.
Oh, man.
I don't think I've slept yet.
Well, you're acting like you're dead right now, so I guess you're a ghost here tonight.
No pun intended, right?
Oh, no. Total pun intended, man. Total pun intendence. How was your trip?
It was good. We started off in Sandon, BC. Did a night there. Then we went to Cody, BC. So those towns were during the Silver Rush in BC history. Then we went into the Rockies, where I'm not allowed to say the name of the place, but we did an old hotel from 1892, in and around the Sicamous, BC area. And we also hit that for 2 nights, and then we also did a bunch of old train cars from the 1800s. It's really nice.
I gotta ask about the train cars, man, because I could just imagine what that's like doing that. I haven't done that yet. What's that like going on something that was literally helping ship everything across the country?
It was wicked, but the more cool part of it is we were doing the old-fashioned passenger train cars that were all in original condition. Some were refurbished, some weren't. So the history you feel going into these, the energy, one of the train cars, I'm thinking about it now, we experienced people walking up and down the hallway, and it was not us because we were sitting on one of the beds doing rolling an EVP session. Very active.
Oh, nice. Very nice. You get some good audio, get some good feedback and video. Did you get beat up? Because normally you get beat up on location.
No beating up. I played nice. They played nice. A lot of visual evidence this time. I don't think I've seen so much visual evidence in quite some time in one spot. To the point where we'd ask for responses and we'd see wheels turning of vehicles because some of the vehicles were kind of up on blocks that were on display.
Oh, that's freaky.
And it would literally look like somebody grabbed the wheel and spun it right in front of our eyes. Didn't even know still speechless thinking about it.
That is kind of cool. Let's bring in our guests tonight, Victoria and Gina. These are a pair of sisters from the lower mainland of British Columbia. They're not part of any paranormal team, but they have a really, really cool website called, I believe it's hauntedhistorybc.com. And, all they've done is the research that a lot of people haven't done. And I think that's absolutely great. This is their first time doing the whole radio thing. So, ladies, welcome so much to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Gina, thank you for joining us.
Hey. Dave, can you hear us now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Just wanted to say hello and so thrilled that you're having us on tonight. We greatly appreciate it so we can share our passion and what we love to do. Like you said, we're relatively new to the whole thing. We just launched our website back in May, as well as our Twitter account. So, we had no idea how it would take off. And so it's great that we're getting a response. It's great that tonight we'll get to share a little bit of what we do and how we got interested in ghosts.
All right, Victoria. This has got to be a lot of fun for you working with your sister on this hobby that's turned into a project that's now kind of starting to blow up.
It really certainly does. Actually, I have to say, we didn't even think we would do anything like this. And it was kind of exciting. We were thinking about this around maybe November, December. We're trying to figure out ways of how to put together some of the information and the things that we've gathered. We used to go for trips sometimes, and we would collect all these photographs and just research certain areas. And somehow we decided, sure, why not? Why don't we try to do something about it? Maybe publish a book, maybe publish something, get some photos in somewhere. And then we figured, why not do a website, maybe do like a wall calendar, just something like that. So we came up with a lot of great ideas, and it just flowed from there. We just kept getting more great ideas, and we just took off. So yeah.
And when we looked at, if there was anything haunted as far as calendars out there or anything, I know that mostly everybody keeps stuff on their phones and whatever, but there wasn't really anything historical, and there wasn't anything really, with good haunted stories or write-ups. There's a lot of picture type calendars, but we actually took the time to put like an introduction. We focused on Victoria this time because that's the place where we went. Not my sister, the actual location. But we went, did a lot of trips. Little did we know at the time when we were taking pictures that we would actually be publishing them. So we're very lucky that we got some really, really good photos that we wanted to share. So, it was hard to kind of pick which locations, and that's why we did a 16-month calendar when we came out with it. But exactly. And just a little bit of background of how we got into ghosts and the paranormal. So that all started with many people. We've read a lot of books, and everybody who seems to be in the paranormal seems to be really seems to have started when they were kids. Like there was something that drew them to reading about ghosts. They usually had an early on experience, which I had a couple of experiences. So that was really interesting. And then even just as a kid, I don't know if everybody knows, but Alfred Hitchcock actually put out kids books to do with ghosts and hauntings. And, so we kind of read all of those, and we read true to life hauntings. I remember reading back in the day, the Tower of London and the Ghost of Anne Boleyn and all that. So it kind of really intrigued me. And I was probably 9 or 10 years old at the time. So it was very, exciting. It scared you, but you still kind of were drawn to it. And then I would have to say that when we were about 10 or 11, we started doing crazy little seances in our friends' basements and our basement. So that was something that, we liked freaking people out, and we liked to be freaked out. We liked freaking people out. Yeah. So it was something that started kind of early on when we were quite young. And then so it just kind of continued on for a while. And I remember one of my earliest experiences was just kind of when we were in our very first house, and it was just me, my sister, my parents, and the rooms kind of faced each other so that the doors kind of, if they were open, you could see into each other's rooms. So I remember one night waking up and kind of looking up into the corner, and you hear this story a lot with people. You see the light in the corner hovering. It's not a reflection. It's not, you try to, even at that stage, you always try to figure out what it is. And there was this odd light. It was kind of a yellowish green, hovered, and then probably stuck around, I would say, for like a good 10 minutes. And you try to figure it out and went away. And then the second time I remember, probably like a year later, having an experience where I woke up and like the room was filled with sort of like little tiny lights that would sort of gather. And in my mind, I thought, am I dreaming this? I see like almost like little staticky type lights, and they're kind of in this ball. And I kind of tried to pinch myself, because you're supposed to pinch yourself. You're not, dreaming and all that. But in my mind, I was telling them to like create little shapes, like a butterfly, a flower, and they were like in the middle of the room. And this probably went on for like 20 minutes. So I don't know to this day what that was. Just eventually disappeared, never saw it again, and don't have a clue how to explain it. So one of those strange things that you never forget. And for quite some time after that, we didn't really revisit any ghostly activity together. I mean, we always kind of liked it in the past, but then how the whole thing started is we thought, we'll do this calendar. It was just kind of a natural thing, like, hey, let's do a haunted calendar. And then we started our website. And the main goal with starting the website was just not just wanting to share haunted things, but just also the history part. So for us, a huge part, like when you go on the website, you'll see a lot of like historical content. Like, so we talk about when the buildings were built, and then look at why sites are active. Maybe that's a good, right. I think that's a good start. You kind of need to know where the building, where it originated, who lived in there, what's the potential for the activity, and then who inhabited the land, for example.
I know that's true. And we also look at things like even we go through and look at even the geography of the area, just to, consider that as well. A lot of times people say too that certain spiritual energies are more attracted to the foundation or the bedrock too, like granite, limestone, or quartz. So we look at that. We look at as well as the age and the history. And obviously there's sometimes a lot of connections to the First Nations culture as well in that area. So, you have to just kind of look at that too, like the type of people who lived there and died in those areas. And you never know, sometimes the spiritual environment there, that just attracts just more energy over there. And we also consider also the possibility of ley lines as well. I mean, there is a belief too that's out there that there are straight lines that could be drawn between various historic structures and prominent landmarks. So you never know. So we take into consideration everything.
Yeah, and it's not just simply that you're hunting for ghosts or paranormal activity all the time. So you're doing lots of research in the meantime. And I think just to be able to figure out, what's going on, you need to do your research, and you need to kind of do it right. And, we want to be as authentic as possible when we're sharing all this information, because a lot of times, to us, it's new information. And then, with our readers or people on the website or following us on social media, you want to be, as accurate as you can. Yeah.
I want to ask you, ladies, because your website, hauntedhistorybc.com, tells the tales of a number of stories and a number of locations. I like your mission statement: researching paranormal activity, legends of hauntings, and local folklore while preserving Canada's past and present history. This is something that a lot of Canadians are not good at, and that is learning about the history. We seem to be very focused on today, especially, it doesn't matter what generation it is, whether it's the older generation or the younger generations. Canada really hasn't ever been a country that embraces its history, whether that's cemeteries, whether that's old buildings, whether that's, we always want to tear down something old and put something fresh and new up. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is.
Exactly one of the things I was saying today too, because just as a sideline, I'll tell everybody that I actually also refurbish antique Art Deco jewelry, like in my spare time. So I find it on eBay. It's, the good stuff, usually like the platinum gold stuff, and, people want to melt it down or whatever, but I take the time to refurbish it. If I can't do it myself, I get a really good jeweler to do it. And so that's the same feeling I have, is like when there's old stuff, everybody wants to just, destroy everything, tear it down. And I think just it comes from a lack of knowing like the importance of certain structures or landmarks or heritage sites. I think if we take the time to know about them, we might be less likely to want to take that route. And I don't know if everybody, on Twitter, I know that the old Hastings Mill Museum and Store recently was in that boat where because of the pandemic, they didn't have the funding and whatever. So they were looking at closing down and possibly, getting taken over by a land developer and, something like that. I mean, once it's gone, it's really gone forever. So it really bothers me that people go that route. I was just very happy when they reached their GoFundMe and they're, going to be around. I mean, this is one of the oldest buildings in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. It's an English bay. It's not just a, store back in the day. I mean, when you read about it, you find out that, it was a center for people getting their news. So they would come to the store, they would buy their goods, they would, find their, get their news updates every week. They would gather there for social services and all kinds of things. So it's, not just a building that is a meaningless building. So I was really, really thrilled when they reached their goal and looks like they're going to be able to operate again. So that's one of the things that we are focused on. I mean, if there's haunted activity, that's really great, but there's also the historical point that we think is really, really important.
And Merle, I want to bring Merle in here for a quick second, because Merle, you just did a 5-day tour of haunted locations and looking into that history. Do you notice, Merle, around British Columbia, because you're in BC as well, all of us are, okay, do you notice that, outside of what we call the lower mainland of British Columbia, which is the greater Vancouver area, that it's when you get into the small towns and you get into maybe some of those not really middle of the range cities, but just those local villages and small towns that are traipsed across the British Columbia mountains, that they are the ones that are really trying to preserve that type of history and that type of folklore, and they are actually embracing the weird and strange that goes on. Merle.
Oh, 100%. This is a total different mentality up there. Like when we were up in Sandon, we found this little town called New Denver. And we're like, what's in New Denver? So we're looking around and we stumble across a preserved Japanese internment camp. Oh. So like we go do a tour of that and all the history you learn there. And then we are talking to the curator at that place. And she's like, oh, you should drive 10 minutes down to Silverton, BC. And we're like, what's in Silverton, BC? And it's all preserved history of the railroad, of the internment camps, of all the loggings and mining, everything. And it's untouched. Nobody goes there. It's too far. 8.5 hours is a long drive for a lot of people. But yeah, there's so much history in this province alone that it would blow your mind if you really dug. Like, I've done a lot of time and a lot of investigations in the lower mainland of British Columbia. And that's why we tend to try and stay out. Like we go up around Dave's area. Now we've been going east because it's all untouched. It's all unspoiled, meaning like there's not a ton of energies in there or other types of ghost hunters going in and trying to raise the dead, if you know what I mean. It's all nice. And the locals there, they just chat your ear off with all of the old stories, all of the old folklore. Like our team, just like you guys, we're history number one, and then we like to link it with the paranormal investigation.
Excellent.
And like in Sandon, when we were up there, they let us in all of the closed, locked buildings. There's the White House, the Brown House, the power station, the hotel. All of those buildings are from the late 1800s, all of them. And then the next day, the curator there, awesome lady, she's like, you guys should head up to Cody. I'm like, where's Cody? She's like, up the logging road. So we go to this old abandoned Canadian Pacific Railway site. and it was also a silver rush site. And it's just all these vacant buildings just sitting there. No graffiti, no nothing. It's eerie and spooky. And that's what I like. I like finding out the history, but mostly the off the books history, where you hear it from the locals, the curators, the historians. And yeah, it's great.
Well, that brings up the question as we got about 4.5 minutes to go here before we go to break at the bottom of the hour. What you're doing, Gina and Victoria, along with Merle, what your group is doing. I mean, why are there not more groups, and not just in British Columbia, but just out there in general, looking for those areas? Because if there is that much uncharted and untapped paranormal territory out there, the stories that those ghosts could be able to tell, Gina and Victoria, I mean, this is untapped chartered territory where you might be able to get some actual proof of the history of what happened in that time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And luckily in BC, we're very lucky because you can pretty much, throw a stone in any direction and there's a haunted location, right? So, or so to speak, like you hear the stories, like you said. So for us, really, it is, our goal is to mainly ensure, that the documentation is available for future generations, really, so that, because when stories are passed down, they kind of lose a lot of, they become lost, altered. And so, that's where the extensive research sort of kicks in. Like you kind of want to make sure that you're verifying with various sources before you document. And then, it's really exciting too when you unearth new information about places that hasn't been documented. So that's part of the excitement. So part of the excitement is like sometimes you will get something that'll happen the handful of times if you're lucky. And the majority of the times you won't get anything happening, but you learn something that's new. And I'll be sharing a little bit of later on with our visit to Irving House, because we didn't really have a spectacular like ghostly experience, but something happened afterwards that uncovered like a big piece of a historically important thing that we'll be sharing with Irving House at some point here very soon.
But Gina, too, the other thing I do agree. And I have to say that with us, when we do our research, we realize actually how much information and time it takes. And I think a lot of people get turned off by that, or they don't even realize that there is any information out there. Mm-hmm. The first focus is, okay, let's go see if we can find some ghosts, or, you hear a story or urban legend and you head out there and that's all you're focused on sometimes. And you kind of forget to, dig deeper and unearth more information.
Plus, I also think that people get really kind of shy about reaching out and talking to people to verify things because, let's face it, to like knock on somebody's door and go, hey, tell me about the ghost, isn't always
spooky people.
Isn't quite always like the approach, like you don't know how to approach that. But then when you find, a lot of times once you start doing that, it's not that people think you're crazy or that you're, kind of off your rocker, but they sort of want to tell their story because I think a lot of people have experiences where they don't really want to say anything for some reason, or they don't share it. But then when somebody comes along and says, hey, I kind of want to hear, what's going on or what your experience was, all of a sudden, they can't stop talking to you about it. I've got a neighbor who's like talks off my ear about stuff that's happened to him since, since I kind of told him what we were doing. And so he himself could be a radio show. I mean, I've talked to him that extensively for hours on end. Our emails are like, 5-6 pages long to where I have to print them out. But, he's more than happy to tell me information. So I think it's just also, you feel a little bit shy about saying anything or, maybe if you feel self-conscious, but really once you open people up, they are more than willing to give you some stories, give you like Merle said, people will say like, oh, drive up there or go to this location. Like people will give you that information. So I think you just have to go for it.
And a lot of people are excited by that. And, they're excited in these small towns when all of a sudden these ghost hunters come on in and they want to, whatever you want to call yourself. I mean, just have fun. Call it ghost hunters, and I think that as we go to break here at the bottom of the hour, I think that people are excited when they're in a small community and there's somebody wanting to look into their history, even if it is from a paranormal way. We are going to get more into paranormal stories coming up here. Our special guest tonight on Ghosts of the Great White North from Haunted History BC. We have sisters Gina and Victoria, and of course, the legendary Merle is here with us as well. Ghost stories on Ghosts of the Great White North coming up next. Good job, people. That's a good first half hour. Solid radio right there.
That was already half hour. That goes fast.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Merle, I'm a little jealous you didn't call me for this trip.
Top secret trip, Dave. Top secret trip.
Yeah, but I'm getting used to it. I'm like an ex-girlfriend. I'm just a secondary thought.
Aw.
Yeah.
I may come see you next week. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to a secret location, Merle. And I don't know if you're invited or not.
I see what you're doing there.
Yep. I went there. Totally went there.
You did.
Yep. 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 Hurts, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
I got one at the end of September. I got the end of one in September, but I don't know if you can come.
I'll make it.
I'm on a break now. All of our gear is, oh man, wear and tear on our gear. It's like I've been on a tour with a band.
Yep. Yep.
It means breaking. My SLS needs to be repaired.
What'd you do?
Just the brackets are, I wouldn't say cheap, but it's just well used.
Oh, yeah.
Merle, how often do you go to places to investigate?
Oh, God. In the past month, I've probably been to about 11 places.
Wow.
That's Merle. That's all Merle.
Yeah.
All day, all night.
Oh, man.
You live and breathe the paranormal. Oh, my goodness.
And I work, and I do lots. But, no, I did the Stanley Theater a couple of weeks ago. I helped another group out.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Oh, we were there too.
Oh, my gosh.
Cool.
We were at the same event.
Yeah.
Merle.
Oh.
Merle was there.
Merle.
And you didn't get Merle's autograph? How can you be in the same building with Merle and not get his autograph?
God.
He carries.
We could have breathed your spittle.
Gina and Victoria, honest truth here with Merle. Every time he goes to an event, he has his rule that he goes and buys 4 new Sharpies. So that way he can sign autographs and never, ever run out of ink.
Dang.
See, we missed it.
Oh, geez.
It's Merle.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good event.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Another one I wasn't invited to.
Oh.
I never
I
get
think it's
invited.
sold out. You allowed like 50 people, right? Because there was there's a restriction on the inside. So it's sold out fast. I think they're thinking of doing another one.
I never get invited.
Probably, yeah.
I never get invited.
Yeah, I also did the Bailey House in Merritt maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
And then, this last 5-day trip was a whirlwind. We covered a lot of the Kootenays. So,
Ooh.
Yeah, once again,
a lot of driving.
I wasn't invited.
The Dodge needs a break.
Oh.
I wasn't invited, so I don't know.
You would be working. You were working.
Oh, probably, but I could have got time off.
True.
Okay, now we know. We'll keep a note of that.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm used to being the spare tire that never gets used. I'm used to it.
For someone that hates country music, you're writing a pretty good country album right now.
Wow. I would never stoop to country music with you. Ever.
Like that.
Hey, what's wrong with country music?
Do you see what's going on in the world caused by country music, soccer, and Karen? Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true.
We do.
Remember the days we used to worry about the people who listened to heavy metal because they wore jean jackets? Yeah, not anymore. It's all country and rap.
Oh, what happened?
I know.
Dave, how many more minutes we have till we're back on?
We got about 1 minute and 15 seconds. So no, you can't leave to go potty.
I'm going to go.
No.
I'll be right back in 30 seconds.
All right. It scares me when he leaves because literally a few months ago, right before, like 6 minutes before we were going to do a show, he accidentally dumped hot tea on himself and literally had third degree burns. Like they had to get an ambulance there to pick him up and everything.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Merle.
Go, Merle.
Well, I want to hear this Mandy story, getting killed by Mandy.
Oh, yeah. Merle's dangerous. He's like the Roxette song Dangerous from 1989.
Back in the late 1980s, late 1900s.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jessica, for feeling my empathy. I appreciate that. Would you invite me to a ghost hunt, Jessica? Let's be honest. Would you?
Poor
because Merle won't. This is my friend right here. I've asked him for an autograph. Every time he comes up to my house, I say, I want your autograph. And he always screws me over and doesn't give me an autograph.
I don't take debit, cash only.
You're a bastard. Bastard. You're lucky I love you. All right, here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Good to be with you all tonight, tuning on in. Reminder that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumble.
Story now?
Well, that's usually what we do on radio, right?
We know about Mandy. We've never seen her, so we've never actually seen Mandy. So we know she's in Quesnel. Lives in a glass case. We know how she was found. There's a woman who was cleaning out her attic, apparently, and her grandma's attic. I think it was right after she had a baby. She was cleaning it out, found this doll, took the doll home, and while the doll was residing at her house, she would hear crying and all kinds of noises and things. So she thought, you know what? I got to get this thing out of my house, and decided to give it to the museum. So now Mandy's there. So we were very intrigued when we heard about the fact that, there was a near-death experience with Merle. So we want to hear that.
All right, the big near-death. This was probably 2015. We were, at that point, I've been investigating for about 10-ish years, but I'd never experienced haunted objects like this. I always thought they were skeptical. I'm like, if things can't move, like dolls can't walk around because it's a doll. Right? That was my thought process going into this, and that's what we were there to document it, to see if things happen. And that night we were setting up, we were looking at the doll, joking around and whatnot, and one of our investigators, he was just staring at it. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he wouldn't talk to any of us. He was just staring. He wasn't blinking. He looked like he pressed pause, and he was just staring. And I can be annoying to people sometimes because that's just how I am. And I started just snapping my fingers around his ears and his face. Wouldn't move, nothing like that. And then he just woke up, and he was all startled. And then he went out. He's like, I got to go outside and get some air. So he goes outside and gets some air, and he vomits all over the place. And he had no recollection of what happened. And I'm like, all right. And then I go in and I look at the doll. I'm watching the doll's eye. I'm just staring in the doll's eyes. And I didn't feel much at that time. And then I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's a doll. And then when I went outside to go get a snack before we started, because we usually have a little snack and like have some energy drinks before we do our nighttime investigation, and all of a sudden, what I remember is walking towards Highway 1 and my teammates coming out to wake me up and grab me, where I was literally going to walk into traffic. I don't remember that. I don't remember doing that. That's something I would never do. Mm-hmm. And that kind of had me a little shaky. But it's funny we're talking about this story because I was talking about it last night too. And the part that I forgot to add, was we rolled 2 high-quality Sony cameras plugged in. Like, this is after our investigation because we wanted to leave stuff rolling when we left. And we left an audio recorder rolling when the museum was locked up and closed. And then when we were reviewing the evidence, we hear a shuffle, and then both cameras just turn off at the same time. That's the part that I don't know how I forgot that, but one of my team members reminded me of that when we were telling the story last night.
That is very creepy.
Yeah, so that's Mandy the doll.
Yeah, I know. And I know that people at the museum oftentimes said things like their lunches would go missing, not to be found. Pens would go missing. They would hear footsteps. And one of the reasons they didn't want to put, Mandy with any other dolls, because they actually thought that she would harm the other dolls. So, she sits there, and staff have had really strange things happen with her in there. So they've heard like a big crash when they come running. There's nothing out of place. And some say that the case kind of cracks open every so often. And like there's a little lamb type, like stuffed lamb that sits in her lap. Every so often, it's outside of the case when the case is still locked. So that is extremely creepy.
What's interesting about that, though, is almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, the museum curators get these psychics who come in who claim to clear the doll of all the energy. And they're like, we just shake our heads because it never goes away. And they all know about her. My own... Now, I haven't had an experience with Mandy. However, in the back of that museum, of the Quesnel, British Columbia Museum, there is a soldier mannequin standing there. Now, I was when Mike and the team there were doing their part of setting up and I just went off and meandered. This was the night before all of this happened. And I go into the back part of the museum, and I love military items. Okay, I'm a military buff. I've never served in the military. I always wanted to. Got a ton of respect for anybody who has or is a veteran or is currently serving. And so I come across all of these items and from World War I and World War II, and they have this mannequin standing there dressed in World War I garb. And beside that, they have this giant patch quilt that tells the history of Quesnel. Okay, and this patch quilt is literally about 12 feet by 12 feet. It is massive. And I'm standing there looking at this patch quilt, and I see out of the corner of my right eye the mannequin move and lean over to look at me to see what I was looking at.
No.
And then as I got startled by it, and as I turned to look at the mannequin and I was jumping back, it jumped back. And I was like, holy crap. I can't believe I just saw this. So I quickly, meander back and we grab a K2 meter. My friend Corey, who was with me, hanging out with the team, and we go over there and I put a K2 right to the face, and I'm whispering right in this mannequin's ear, I saw you. I know what you did. Do it again. And I'm just freaking out that this mannequin's going to, come out alive and go boo. And I would have died right there. I would have. But yeah,
luckily we've never had any doll experiences so far. So, we have yet to see Mandy, but
about Mandy, a similar story like that, actually one of the staff members, I think they were taking photos of her, and apparently the same thing happened. Like they were taking pictures, they were doing a photo shoot, and they swear that the head moved.
Oh my God. Yeah, and so we haven't had any doll experiences, but an experience that we kind of want to share. So our very first experience that sticks out in our mind is when we got drawn back into the land of ghosts. It was because we did a ghostly walks tour, and we did it in Victoria in 2017. And so it's a great way to learn about hauntings. Really get a good tour of the city and everything. And we've never done a ghostly walk before. And just in case somebody thinks it's kid stuff, these things are creepy because you're in the middle of the night, you're walking around, all these back alleys and everything. And then you have a really good storyteller. And we were really, really lucky because we had Ian Gibbs, who wrote Victoria's Most Haunted. So we had him as a tour guide. So that was a really, really lucked out there. And so we got to know all these locations. We read the book and everything. So we thought, okay, we're going to go to the Pendre Inn. So we went to the Pendre Inn and checked in. And then one night we went for a walk. So we went for a walk in the area. It was about 10 o'clock at night. We got back, and the Pendre Inn's kind of creepy because all the staff goes home at around 9:30 at the front desk.
Yeah, it feels like you're staying at a house.
Yeah, so you're in there. There's other guests there, but we were there in the middle of the week, so there wasn't really anybody around. We were at 10 o'clock, and so we were sitting in one of the tea rooms because the tea rooms were set up already for the next day, but we thought we'd just carefully sit there and kind of hang out for a bit before we, call it a night or whatever. And so we were sitting there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I kind of duck out, and I see something fly by, and I'm thinking it's like an insect or a bug or something. So I look down, and it's a wine cork that just flew by. So I thought, okay, well, how do you explain that? Where did it come from? There's nobody else in there. We're sitting there. So we kind of ignored that. And the funny thing is, even when you experience something and you believe in paranormal or you believe in the possibility of paranormal, you are always trying to explain it, like with your logical mind. You think, okay, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be, something fell, somehow you try to rationalize. So we thought, okay, well, let's get out of here and let's just kind of poke around and creep around and see if we, find anything, because we're lucky enough to have the place kind of almost to ourselves. So we went into one of the dining rooms, and all of these old hotels, the thing they have in common is like the old wood, and everything's dark, and, everything's kind of just eerie anyway. So we're poking around one of the dining rooms in the dark. I don't know why we didn't turn on the light. You always yell at those people in those horror movies, like, turn on the light. We didn't turn on the light either. We had our flashlights on our phones, and we're just creeping around.
We want to create the atmosphere, right?
Yeah, we didn't really want anybody to think like we're lurking around either, because you just don't know, like, if do they have cameras, the staff watching or whatever. So we're poking around in one of the dining rooms, and they have a big bookshelf. We're looking at the books, and all of a sudden, in the pitch black, we hear a voice, like a really whispery voice. I can see you. So we thought, oh my God. Okay. So first of all, I thought it was my husband, Bill, because he was in the room with me. So I kind of shined my flashlight on him, and I said, did you do that? And he's like, no. We were all completely stunned. So we heard
just frozen. We just stood there.
We were just frozen. We're like,
okay,
did we really hear that?
Yeah.
So we looked around and everything. At that point, we did turn on the light. We started looking around. And we saw these two speakers in the corner of each corner of the room, kind of like just, I don't know, mounted up there. So we thought, well, is somebody playing a trick on us?
That's what we were initially thinking. Yeah.
So we thought, does the staff go home? Do they have cameras? Do they see us lurking around? Is somebody just kind of messing around? So I thought, okay, we're going to get out of there and kind of sit in the foyer. They had some nice chairs. There was a fireplace. And we thought, okay, just for kicks, we're going to do the whole question answer thing. Now, mind you, when we go out on these things, we don't have like crazy equipment or anything like that. We just go, at best we have a digital recorder at this point. We haven't invested in anything. And we're sitting there, and we start talking to, is anybody there, kind of a thing. Because with the Pendre Inn, we've heard that guests have stayed in a particular room. I think it's room number 5, and where they kind of wake up and they see these ghostly heads kind of in a green mist sort of floating above the bed. And it's thought to be William Pendre, who's, built the place, and his son. So they kind of died tragically. So, every so often this story of these ghostly heads, but we didn't see those. But so then we're sitting at the fireplace, and we start asking some questions. Well, wouldn't you know, we hear the tapping. We did the typical, like, 1 for yes, 2 for no. And we just sat there. We thought, are we really hearing this for real? And we were.
We tried it again then.
We tried it again with another question.
And the tapping
sure enough,
continued.
The tapping starts again. So we thought, oh my gosh, what is going on here? Because you kind of want to believe it and you're excited, but at the same time, you're thinking, this can't be happening.
That's incredible.
So from there, the night got kind of weirder. We thought, okay, wait, great. We experienced something. It's getting late. Let's just kind of call it a night and go to bed. So Victoria goes into her room. My husband and I go into the other room. Somehow we get to sleep, which is always kind of amazing because, you're kind of freaked out anyway, but we fell asleep. And then probably at around like 3:40 in the morning, like all of a sudden really loud music in our room. I kind of start looking around. You're half asleep. I'm waking up my husband, like, oh my God, I think an alarm's going off, because you think you're in a hotel and you think there's going to be a clock radio. So I'm just looking at my nightstand, and I kind of think, okay, there's got to be something I can turn off. Where's this music coming from? So my husband's looking on his side. There's nothing on his side. We look over to the TV. Well, we finally realized that it was his phone that was playing music. It wasn't an alarm. It was actually like a tune that started. It was oddly Elton John's "Someone Saved My Life Tonight," which was kind of creepy. But it was playing. Like, you would have to go into the iPhone, put your password in, select the tune, and play it. So how that happened, we have no idea. Very unexplained. We kind of, tried to think about it afterwards. And, the next morning we got up, we went downstairs. We were all having our tea and biscuits or whatever. And we thought, just nonchalantly, we're going to pry the staff a little bit, like, especially about this disembodied voice. We were thinking, we heard this, it was clear as day. We heard it. So we kind of asked the staff, well, we noticed you have this dining room. So what do you guys use that for? And they would tell us, so people have events in there. And I kind of mentioned the speakers. I see there's speakers. So can people play music? And the woman there says, oh, you know what? Those haven't worked for years.
They were disconnected.
So that answered that question. So where we heard that, why we heard it, still to this day, can't prove anything. We didn't have anything that we caught on tape. But that was our creepy story about the Pendray Inn. So
that is freaky. That's a little
that was freaky. It was one of the most, like, one after another things were happening, and we didn't know why on that night. We'd heard things. It was just one of those things just that you just don't forget.
When you ladies are investigating, this is the one thing that I like about you ladies, okay? You make no bones about it. You are doing it for fun. You are doing it for the thrill. You're not trying to solve anything. You're not trying to play the television star or anything like that. How have you kind of taken to the paranormal with Haunted History BC and turn that into just a fun course of events, whereas so many other paranormal investigators, they're trying to lock down locations. They want locations to sign contracts. They're trying to bolster their presence and take over a province or a state in the U.S. They're just trying to have all of this egomaniacal way of conducting the paranormal, and yet here you ladies are. You do your own thing. You kind of go with the flow, and you just want to share the experiences that you are having as well as others. Why have you chosen that path rather than what is so prevalent in the paranormal today? Vicki, let's start with you.
Well, I think probably too for us, it's like we really can't prove or disprove with people's experiences. We can't say, yes, they are paranormal, or they aren't. And but then we are always very open to hearing people's stories. And I think that's what kind of captures our interest. And it allows us to go into an area then to look at it from both sides. We take the paranormal side, the stories behind it, but we also do research on it. And you know what? Realistically, I think as being history buffs, we actually love the history side of things. And that's what keeps us going. And then when we start delving deeper into like the location, we actually uncover a lot of interesting things. And they were like, hey, we didn't know anything about this area or this area. Like we're quite fascinated by the research and also like the history and the background of the area. And, like I said, people may have experiences. Some are maybe more sensitive to others. Like, they might pick up on something. We probably do and we don't. It just depends. But I think that for the most part, it's just the history that attracts us. And as you start digging deeper into a location, you realize that, oh, wow, that, I didn't realize this. And we lived here for so many years. Mm-hmm. It just becomes more fascinating. And you want to share that with people this way. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, too, when initially when it started with just the calendar project, mm-hmm. we were hoping as we started working on it last November, but we really started gearing up and kicking up the project probably around January or February. Mm. And it was right during when everything was happening and all of a sudden people couldn't travel. So we thought, you know what, we want to bring history to people. So if you can't necessarily get out right now and get there, we can present something that's, that has a little bit of that. And maybe, we've gotten a lot of comments on people who have gone to the website or just even looked at the calendar and tell us, this brings back some great memories just from a historical standpoint, because I went to this location and I went to that location. And that's really kind of what we took from our experience of reading a lot of books on, because we read Ian Gibbs, Victoria's Most Haunted. And then we went and did read The Hauntings of Vancouver Island, Shannon's Sin. And so those things inspired us. Yeah. And so those inspired us to kind of check out locations. And so we're kind of trying to inspire people to do the same thing, whether or not you do it from a haunted perspective. If you want to take that route, great. But, just the historical part in itself is always very interesting. And, listening to people tell the stories, or people who have been in a city for a long time and who know the city's history, it's very interesting to chat with them. And, just to learn everything you can about a location. And that's always intriguing in itself. So we did notice that not a lot of people are doing that. So
we only got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break. Merle, you got a question?
No, I was just going to say, add on to what they were saying. We go history first as well. And I find, I'll use one of the recent ones, Sandon, BC. That place, we did our history on it. We read everything on it, and it connects you to the location. And before we even thought about investigating, and we do this everywhere we go now a lot, is day and night one, we won't even investigate. We will walk around, we'll take photos, we'll feel it out.
Yeah.
We'll read every piece of information there, and we'll speak to the curators, the locals, the staff, and get their advice on how and when we should investigate. And then it's usually nights 2 and 3 when we will actually do our investigation and see if we can link the history with the paranormal up.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's kind of like us too. We try to take the journalistic approach. We like to look into everything and check with a lot of different people, not just go with one typical story and just say, hey, yeah, okay, it's haunted, or there's, paranormal activity. We really do our research and we look and talk to different people about that.
Yeah, and when we reached out to people about our project, we actually appreciated the fact that they did correct us on a couple of things. So I think that's the other thing. You can't go into it thinking, oh, now that I've done the research and I've done all the reading, I'm the only person who knows about it, because there are other people who have experienced it, who have looked into it a lot longer than we have. So you kind of have to respect the experience that is in the field, and, grab onto those people who you do respect, and then you can kind of go from there. So I think we felt comfortable enough doing with a few people, and we really appreciate their honest feedback. We don't want to have a floofy oh yeah, that's really nice, but if something's wrong, then you've got to tell us the information's wrong, and this is what it really is. So, and this is who I talk to about it. So, then at that point you kind of make a little correction or a little adjustment, and you want to present it as truthfully and as authentically as possible.
Truth.
We got about a minute to go here, and ladies, one thing that I appreciate with what you're saying is just the honesty behind the investigation. A lot of paranormal teams don't have that honesty, and it leads to the blog that I wrote last week in regards to, one of the reasons why, myself and a lot of people have fallen out of love with the paranormal. So I think what you guys are doing is fantastic, because you're almost bringing a sense of storytelling through the eyes of the ghosts and the communication that you're getting. And a lot of people aren't doing that, especially the weekend warriors. So you guys need to be commended for that. And I know, I could compliment Merle on that too, because I know the way his team works in that fashion as well. And that's really the way it should be done. If we're not trying to solve anything, let's try and have some fun.
That, especially being so new. We really do appreciate that, because it is a great compliment. And, it kind of just proves to us that we're really on the path that we want to be on, because we are actually, presenting that to people in the way that we want to present it.
Perfect. Ladies, you hold on, and Merle, you hold on as well, because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Ghosts of the Great White North happens once a month, where my good buddy Merle comes in from Paranormal Road Trippers, hangs on out, talks some ghost stories. Tonight, special guests from hauntedhistorybc.com. We have the sister team of Gina and Victoria. More ghost stories from around British Columbia coming up next on Ghosts of the Great White North. Good job, first hour, people. Good job.
Fun. Thank you.
Great.
You having fun yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, very much.
Total fun.
Good. Okay, I'm going to run my dogs outside. You guys chat away. Remember, the YouTube crowd can hear you, so why don't you tell them a story while you're waiting?
Okay, we can tell them a story. So what can we tell them as a story? Let's talk about Beacon Hill.
Beacon Hill, yeah.
Beacon Hill is another location in Victoria that is extremely haunted in a strange way. And the history behind Beacon Hill is that there's been historically doppelganger sightings. So we did feature this part in our calendar as well. And people reported, like back in the 70s, there was a report of people walking by, and they sort of saw this woman standing in a part of the park. She kind of had her arms outstretched, and she looked like she was screaming, but nobody could hear anything. So she stood there, kind of with her arms outstretched, and people would see her. And more than one person saw her. So thought nothing of it. And then several years later, that happened again, where another apparition type came out, and people saw this woman again. And eventually it was figured out that once, people started looking into it, they did find really close by, after the sightings, a body that was found in the woods, and she had been murdered quite a few years before. So that was a really creepy story. And doppelgangers kind of freak me out a little bit, because they're, historically just kind of like by folklore, like are supposed to be, if you see your own doppelganger, it's a bad omen, means death, and all these, kinds of other things. So that was kind of a creepy story in itself. So Beacon Hill Park.
And that was a good trip too, because we took a horse carriage ride through there too as well. We had a great tour guide for that.
And then the other story I will share, that sometimes the haunted stories are really nice, like the stories you hear, but sometimes the facts are stranger than fiction. And so we did encounter that when we submitted our project to kind of have Ian look it over for a little bit. We talked about one location we talked about in the calendar is the Hotel Victoria Plaza. So the Hotel Victoria Plaza is an interesting place, and had been a hotel that was there for a long, long time in downtown Victoria. It's one of the back alleys that you visit, and it's kind of dark, and many interesting characters once roamed through the streets of Victoria. There's the Chinatown and all of that. So there's just a lot of paranormal activity in that area. So my initial write-up was about that. But then Ian Gibbs kind of, once he looked at it, said, the Hotel Victoria Plaza actually burned down last year in May. And so we thought, okay, wow, that's interesting. So we looked into it. And lo and behold, the true story was a lot more intriguing, because this building burnt down mysteriously. Exactly. The caretaker who used to live in the Airstream bus, all of a sudden disappeared. They found him nowhere to be found. And at that point, I kind of changed my write-up to the real life story, because I thought that was actually more interesting than any of the ghost stories that were out there, because, here's a missing caretaker. That's pretty spooky.
Well, a ghost story on its own.
Yeah, so that's kind of an example where sometimes the real life story can be a little bit more interesting, from a historic standpoint.
And what about the English Inn?
Yeah, so let's see, what else can we tell you here? What other locations did we feature in there? And Fantan Alley. So as we were going on these ghost walks, then another one from Victoria that we really liked was the story of Fantan Alley, because it's actually the oldest Chinatown in Canada. So I don't know if people know that, but it is used to be the home of gambling joints and brothels and opium dens. And back in the 1880s, a young man named Chung. He fell in love with a beautiful girl in Chinatown, and he had, made some advances towards her, wanted her to marry him, and so on. And when she refused, he killed her in a jealous rage because, he was really offended. And eventually he was convicted of murder and sentenced to hang, but he committed suicide instead. And then visitors on the ghost tour and that pass through the alleyways, they still report seeing Chung's ghost in Fantan Alley. And then some people actually hear rapid footfalls as if somebody's still desperately fleeing the scene. So very creepy stuff.
All right, we got 90 seconds, ladies. 90 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And then also we went to visit the Craigdarroch Castle. That was also in Victoria, and that's part of our little
calendar project.
The calendar project there. And also this one was quite interesting too, because it's actually a manor house. I know they call it the Craigdarroch Castle, but it is a manor house. And it was really interesting because the Dunsmuir family, they actually owned the place and then passed it down. It used to be also a hospital at the time of the World War I. And the mansion has actually 4 floors, so lavish furnishings, intricate woodwork. It was just amazing to visit. But you know what? There were sightings of a man ascending the stairs and also a woman standing alone in the ballroom. And people used to report seeing the lady in the ballroom quite often. And and guests feel like they're sometimes watched while they're on the tour, so they feel like somebody's next to them, or they feel people touching them, or something like that. So, we didn't have any experiences there, but I mean, it was just worth. You climb to the top. There's like 87 stairs through this, and you see every single floor. And it's quite an elaborate place to visit. It is a beautiful place all on its own. So, and the tour guide takes you there and asks you questions too about if you do feel anything. They are curious to know too if you're actually feeling anything.
All right, ladies, I'm going to have to cut you off right there because we're about to come back. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't already, give us a thumbs up or down. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Here we go with hour number 2.
Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us on in. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Parabolanis. Parabolanis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on here with Ghosts of the Great White North. We got Merle here from Paranormal Road Trippers hanging on out after a 5-day, 5-location ghost hunt around British Columbia. And our special guests tonight, sisters Gina and Victoria. They have a great website that you want to check out called hauntedhistorybc.com, where they take a look at the history of some of British Columbia's biggest and best paranormal legends. Everyone, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, we're back. And so we talked quite a bit about Victoria. And of course, that's very haunted and people know that it's haunted. So I just kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk about our experience at the Irving House in New Westminster, BC. So that is in our neck of the woods. It's about, 40 minutes away from where we live. It's a historic house that was built in 1865 and a lovely colonial home, and was the residence of Captain William Irving, and he was known as the King of the Fraser River. So it was our first time visiting that particular location, and it's a beautiful heritage house, so in New Westminster, BC. And we had a great tour guide, so that's the other thing we do like every so often where we have a tour guide that can take you throughout. There's 14 rooms in the house, so there's a lot to see. So we went through the house, and the tour guide told us about the history of the Irving family, some of the descendants, and we were lucky enough to actually see some of the belongings that actually belonged to them. So that was really kind of cool. And one of the nice things about the architecture at the time was that William Irving really loved his ships. So it had a lot of, Gothic features. It had a lot of features for a lot of features of ships, and he liked, that decor. So a lot of the walls had like the shiplap and a lot of nautical type of themes. So that was really cool to see too. So you could tell that he really loved his time on the sea. And the day we picked to visit was really perfect. So because we only had one other person on the tour with us, so we kind of felt like we had all to ourselves. And so the last members of the Irving family that lived in the house was until about the 1950s. So they used it fairly recently. And then, like happens to many heritage sites, it did get sold to the city of New Westminster, and they preserved it, thank goodness, because not a lot of people know this, but New Westminster had a great fire, and it was in 1898 or whatever. Yes, I think 1898. And a lot of heritage houses there were kind of wiped out. So we were really happy that this one still exists. And we didn't have anything ghostly. We went through the rooms and everything, and it was a great experience. But we did ask our tour guide if anybody ever experienced anything paranormal. And they did. She said they informed us that several staff members and visitors would occasionally smell pipe smoke. That was quite a common occurrence. They would hear the faint sound of bagpipes, which is kind of strange.
That's
you don't know
cool.
if you're hearing them. Yeah, so they would hear it either in the house or outside on the ground. So I'm not really sure, but she said they often heard bagpipes. A couple of rare occasions, she said, from the staircase, there would be a white feather that would float down out of nowhere during the tours. So we didn't experience the white feather or anything like that.
But the tobacco smoke.
We did smell something. Yeah. So it was, kind of, and she said, yeah, tobacco and pipe smoke has a very, very unique smell. So usually people can tell a little bit of the difference. But one of the things, and here's where the history part kicks in, we were drawn to the story of Mary Aline Cox, and she was one of the granddaughters of Captain Irving. So she ended up writing about her grandfather. She wrote Saga of a Seafarer about his adventures on the ships and everything. So that kind of caught my attention because I thought, kind of being a dabbler with, writing and everything, it intrigued me that she was a writer. So I thought, made a note of it because we are geeks and we take notebooks to these things. So I kind of made a note to look it up later. And, it wasn't a book that you would be finding like on Amazon or anything. This is an old book. So I had to do a little bit of searching, but we did find copies of the book. And so I ordered a couple copies, and then I found them in various places on the internet, some old bookstores. And then I just set them aside because I kind of wanted to know more. And I set those books aside. And then about a couple weeks later, I thought, well, let me look at these, because they were signed copies, which was kind of really cool too. So I kind of started looking through them. And lo and behold, in one of them, I found a typed letter from Mary Aline Cox to her publisher. So for the average person, you think, oh, it's just a typed letter. But for us, we freaked out when we found this thing. Yeah. It was really, really exciting to find this because, those things just didn't survive. It was like if we wrote a letter now, who's going to keep that, right? So we were really excited. It was a typed letter. It was hand signed by her to her publisher in New York. And that was like one of the coolest things we found.
Called me in the middle of the night when you found that out. So
yes, I did. I called her and I was like, oh my gosh. And I took pictures of it on my cell phone. I'm like, oh my God, I found this letter. And it just was the completely nerdy thing to do.
Gina found the Holy Grail.
And I know it was like that. And all it was is this letter. But, eventually we're doing some other research on the Irving House because we want to do a little project around that. But eventually what we hope to do, and this is kind of what why we're in this, is that we want to have this letter framed and we want to donate it back to the Irving House because that's where it really needs to go. And it needs to go with a copy of the book. And we hope that somewhere in October we can contact them and, and have this happen for, so that was our big thing. So we didn't have anything ghostly happen, but I will backtrack a little bit. So I did take a couple of outside photos.
Oh, yes.
And we did catch what looked like a couple of green orbs, and they had kind of the nebula around them. I kind of had people look at them to kind of scrutinize them and all that. So we are not really sure what we caught. I caught them in a couple of different places. One looked like it was sitting deep within the grass, and it kind of like had a little halo. And then one was at the front of the house. And that's where the tour guide kind of told us that from the inside of the house, like that big window, people have actually seen apparitions kind of gliding through and out the window. So
interesting.
That is my Irving House story.
That is incredible. Absolutely incredible that you would share that. Thank you so much for that. I want to get into another story around here because, one of the most popular places that does not allow paranormal investigation, and you can't get into the buildings, I think, unless you have a multi-million-dollar insurance policy, is the old Riverview hospitals. Now, for people who
hospital.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, for a lot of people out there who do not know, this was like, for our American friends, it would be like Waverly Hills, okay, or the Trans-Allegheny Asylum.
Yes, exactly. Trans-Allegheny. I've seen stuff on Trans-Allegheny.
Yeah, so this is what it's like. However, they don't allow paranormal investigation in there, and these buildings are just sitting there, and it is rife for the picking for the paranormal, but they don't want that type of reputation. The buildings are falling apart. Some areas are almost to the point where they're condemned, and they do a lot of movie filming in there though, which is really weird. And talking to people in the film industry, they seem to have a lot of strange activity there, but you can investigate out on the grounds, and there is a graveyard there. Now, before I bring Gina and Victoria in, Merle, have you ever investigated the grounds there?
I have investigated the grounds. It's kind of eerie there. I obviously, like any other investigator, would love to get inside one day. But they're sticklers on you. If you park too long or you hang out around a building too long, security's on you like flies on crap when you're there. It's so locked down, and there's signs everywhere like no metal detecting, no loitering, no after dark. So it's really difficult to even do an EVP session without getting bugged.
The funny thing is, we went there on a weekend. I think we saw one security guy. So we must have really lucked out because we were on the grounds, I think, for about 4.5 hours. We were. And one of the things that motivated us to go there is one of the other books that we read was The Ghosts of Vancouver by Greg Mansfield. And so when he got a copy of our calendar, he said, "Hey, I really want to do a haunted Vancouver calendar. So will you guys collaborate?" And we said, of course. We jumped at it. We were like, of course we're going to, collaborate with you. We'd love it. So we actually went on a picture taking expedition a couple of weeks ago with Greg and another friend of his who's into the paranormal. He's a photographer. So we all went as a group, and we were on the grounds for quite a while.
But I actually contacted the admin staff, and I did ask them about the parking and whatnot and the permission, and they allowed that, and they just they took our numbers down and our names basically, and but otherwise they were okay with it, and they did a follow-up with us the next day too, just to see that if we were all okay and if we were able to capture the information we wanted. So yeah.
And so the most interesting stories that I have, we didn't experience anything on the grounds other than we took some amazing pictures, and the place is like really eerie as hell. The dilapidated buildings, and it's a little bit heartbreaking too, because you see these beautiful, beautiful buildings, what once were beautiful buildings, and they were just sort of let go after a while. And I think they're having some sort of a revival of some of them. They're trying to do that, but a lot of them, are still.
And just for the folks who are not familiar with the Riverview Hospital, the hospital was actually for the mentally ill patients, and it has a history stretching back to about 110 years.
Yes.
So it's been around for a very,
it
very
opened
long
in like 1913 or something is when it opened, and it closed in 2012 for good. So.
Right. And the hospital housed thousands of patients, but unfortunately in the 1980s, the government decided to close down majority of the wards. I think currently right now in existence, there's only 3 that are actually functioning, 3 wards that are functioning there.
And so, I do have a haunted story about the cemetery, however. Dave, like you mentioned, there's a lot of filming that goes on, and I know a couple of people who I've spoke to in the film industry, because I work with a lady and her husband has worked for the film industry. Then also other people that I've worked for, worked in there doing spending extensive time there. They've all experienced something freaky. So there is ghostly activity. So I'm going to kind of read a little bit of my excerpt from the website, because I did post it on the website here. And so there are many reports of ghostly activity all around the Riverview grounds and buildings. The cemetery is no exception. 2 local men who worked on film projects regularly said there were many unnerving experiences, and most of them took place inside the dilapidated buildings. However, one of the men recalled a time when he was inside, and he was out on a break strolling the grounds, and he unknowingly ended up at the cemetery. He said he was puzzled to see a woman in old-fashioned clothing and a hat looking like she was doing some gardening. The man was confused, as he believed her to be one of the actors on the set, except that the outfit was all wrong. He was even more puzzled when she seemed not to pay attention to him walking by. She didn't look up, didn't notice him, and as he walked back towards the abandoned buildings, he quickly glanced behind him, and he was surprised to see that the woman was no longer there. The man asked some of the film crew if another company was filming there, because he said he saw a woman dressed in an odd outfit. One man on the film crew confirmed that they were the only ones on site, and not even visitors could come on the grounds while the filming was in progress. Another man reluctantly admitted seeing the same woman days earlier, and he too saw her gardening, but thought this was strange as it was pouring rain. Inexplicably, the woman didn't seem to be getting affected by the rain, and stranger still, her clothes didn't seem to be wet. The man thought it best not to mention the incident and only admitted to it when his coworker mentioned seeing her. The men nervously chalked it up to be yet another chilling incident on their list while working at the Riverview grounds. Needless to say, even in broad daylight, neither one of the men walked past the cemetery on their breaks for the duration of the film project. So that was my Riverview creepy cemetery story.
Yeah, that's not cool.
We don't know who the gardener is. I mean, the cemetery grounds are interesting because as we looked at all the stones, they're very basic markers. They're not like a cemetery that you would notice. So when we first arrived there, we thought, okay, we did all the grounds, and now we were trying to find the cemetery. So we couldn't find it. We were, searching. There was a bit of a confusion because we couldn't see. We were expecting to see like headstones, and we didn't see that. So then we finally turned and saw the indents in the grounds, and we thought, oh, here it is. We're literally almost like standing on it. So we went and looked around, and there's only the patient's first initial, their last names, and when they died. So not much is known about the people there. So that's one thing we found out in our research is that there wasn't much to research just because nobody knows anything about it, really. I mean, they know that people are buried there. They know, some names. They don't know. They know some people are patients, some loved ones that are, buried beside them there. And then there's some staff.
Yeah, they don't have records.
Yeah, and not all the patients at Riverview were either were always buried at Riverview either. Like in the earlier parts, Fraser Cemetery in New Westminster was used for a lot of people who passed away there in the beginning till about the 1920s. And then Riverview started being used. And there was also some overflow into another local hospital in New Westminster called Woodlands. So at that time, that was another mental hospital, eventually like a troubled boys' school and all that. But some people are buried in Woodlands, and there's not very many records. So there's not records you can look at. No. So we found that there's a lot of people in the community still searching for information, and they're trying to piece it together as to who exactly is buried there. The earliest person buried there that we found was 1929. There was a headstone. So they're saying 1958, but 1929 makes sense just because when Fraser Cemetery in New Westminster was stopped being used, the Riverview grounds started being used more often. So the latest person, the most recent person buried there was in 2012, and it was an unmarked grave. It's just Jane Doe.
Yeah.
And so nobody knows who she is. We assume that she's probably a patient. We don't know. But there was no records. Her body was donated to science, and they did research and so on. So, sometimes I think when people have experiences of hauntings, it's because the ghosts kind of want something from you, whether it's like recognition or they want you to find out more, or I don't know, there's a feeling of unrest because it felt like a very sad and heavy place. And mind you, we went on a sunny day, so it should have felt all nice and bright and everything, but you start kind of wandering around and it felt, I don't know, did it feel that way too, Victoria?
Kind of oppressed. Yeah, I would say that. It just felt desolate, like when we walked in there. That's exactly what we kept saying, that just like hardly no one's around, just nothing. Like, that's it. Very quiet.
Yeah, so it'd be a very creepy place. If you had an experience, it would freak you out. You probably wouldn't want to pass by there. So yeah, that's our Riverview story.
Merle, I got to ask you in regards to the Riverview Hospital, why are they so adamant against paranormal teams going in there?
I think it's the paranormal movies that have been filmed there doesn't shed a good light on our research and what we do. Also, it's unsafe there, and I think the people that own it or run it may look at it as a lack of respect to the people who passed away or who were there during this.
One of the folks I spoke to, I made contact with somebody who did the set building. They said a lot of the buildings have a lot of asbestos still. So they're very leery about letting people in because there's a lot of like toxic chemicals. There's a really terrible smell of like the chemicals and the medicines or whatever, the stuff that they would use. So they're kind of leery about letting people in for that reason as well, is what I hear.
Interesting. We've got about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Merle with Ghosts of the Great White North and our special guests from hauntedhistorybc.com, Gina and Victoria. When it comes to these type of asylums, there aren't a lot in British Columbia to go with that. Yet they are a paranormal hotspot, especially for paranormal tourism in the United States. Outside of this one, Merle, are there any other areas or asylums or that are open to investigation?
No. There's one in Kamloops, the Tranquil.
Oh yeah, the TV ward.
Yeah, that one. They let you walk the grounds. I know of teams that say that they're getting into it, but seeing and believing is one. We were going to stop there on the way home today, but we didn't since we drove through Kamloops. But no, that one is a daytime tour only.
Interesting. Very interesting. You would think, though, that with these buildings just kind of sitting there, that collecting dust, costing a lot of money for security, for even the land itself, and they're doing nothing. You think that they would be a little bit more open to the fact that they could create a revenue stream using the paranormal there.
I agree, but it's, again, I think with those type of places, just like residential schools in Canada, I think people shy away from they don't want to talk about the history, and they don't want because a lot of people who will investigate, they won't be respectful. They'll want to find the ghost. They'll want to find the more darker side of things. And I think that's what makes, I think one bad apple ruins it for other people to go investigate. And I think it's a no across the board to that. But I agree with you. It would make them money, especially if they did tours at night.
Yeah, and I think the same with woodlands. They said similar things about woodlands, that people sort of want to just put the history behind them. And they actually, for Woodlands Cemetery, we have not been out there, but for that cemetery, they actually, back in the day, I think it was in the 60s, they actually removed all of the pavers. So that was a lot of people thought that was a very disrespectful thing to do, because they actually took up all the pavers, stacked them off to the side. Some got taken away. They built a patio with them, and, just people thought it was not handled very well. So I think, there can be a lot of unrest, I guess, and that energy, when you're disturbing kind of a sacred burial space, people are dead there and you're kind of, traipsing around on their territory. So it's not a good thing to disturb the dead. We have learned that.
And I know, like last year, the place in Kamloops, the Tranquil Hospital, they did like an escape room there. So they seem clearly okay with doing that stuff.
I think I heard a story, and I don't know how true, but up here in Canada, we have a channel called Much Music, which is the Canadian version of MTV. And I heard it during one of their reality shows that they did a number of years ago. They just tore up the place. And that's what killed it, is they were just very disrespectful to the place. And I guess they didn't film it in a very, lack of a better term, positive way. And they just were not interested. So that's why I heard the Kamloops, British Columbia one got shut down. But you guys, I got to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We have Ghosts of the Great White North, Merle from Paranormal Road Trippers, along with from Haunted History BC, Gina and Victoria. More of Ghosts of the Great White North on Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Solid.
Okay.
I'm having fun.
Oh yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah.
I want to do some more ghostly investigations. It's this day job that's in the way.
Isn't that the truth?
4 on 4 off.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth? I think that's the problem with 99% of the ghost hunters out there.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Nah, man. 4 on 4 off. That's my schedule. It's the best thing ever.
Nice.
Merle on, Merle off.
Yeah.
But then you were off a couple months too,
I was,
so that was good. Gave you a chance
during our project. So that was really good. Yes, I could do a lot of writing, a lot of research during that time.
Okay, when you guys were on the island in Victoria, did you guys do the Langham Court Theatre?
We did not. No, we have not done that one.
We did that place 2 years ago. It was amazing. Like, the history there is amazing too. I think it was built in like 1862 or something like that. Oh, sorry, 1876. Nice. And we're supposed to be going back in early 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, because it's a theater now. I think it's Canada's oldest show theater.
Oh yeah.
And one of the experiences we had there was in the costume room. There's a bunch of World War I and World War II uniforms, like proper ones, real ones, but now they're costumes. And we saw and felt one of the arms of the jackets come out. It was pretty neat.
Wow.
Very Merle.
Yeah, that place is
very Merle. You can't Merle better than that.
Yeah, we would like to go back to the island too. Just check out.
Yeah, we just never. We were scheduled to go back in April, and of course everything locked down. So we kind of, sometimes when we have to coordinate vacations too, we have to do it together, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of harder to do that. And then kind of when you miss your window, then you can't line it up all over again. But that's why we started to do it. Kind of do a virtual, and then we just started, exploring in our community a little bit more, because there's a lot here. So we're not at this moment. We're doing great, just visiting very local locations that are within a stone's throw.
Yeah, well, we're really like tourists in our own backyard right now, so that's good.
Have you ladies ever or Mike, even you? Okay, everybody goes and investigates the Stave Lake power source.
Oh yes,
yeah. That's another one on our list.
I mean but if you go and you do the trails of Hayward Lake, which the Stave Lake feeds into. Okay, literally, we were geocaching along there. And my daughter and I both saw a shadow figure turn into a wolf there.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Merle, I don't even think I told you that story. This is going back like 10 years ago.
No, you haven't.
Yeah. The Hayward Lake trails. It was literally probably a 100-yard walk up a hill from the Ruskin Dam. And that's where we saw the person turn into we saw the shadow of a person turn into a wolf. It was friggin' amazing.
Huh.
Wow. Yeah, that would be something that you wouldn't forget. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that happen over there. So when we did a little bit of research, because we want to go there, I don't think it's open at the moment.
No.
So we're going to try to contact somebody to try to see if we can get in there, or, when they'll be open again for tours. But, people have had all sorts of strange things. They hear
I've investigated it twice after.
Oh, have you? Okay, so
Wow.
people say they hear like whispers and the chairs being dragged, the elevator opening, and that they hear like all the different
A dog. There's a dog
they
that
hear a dog, and
Yeah.
yes, and that some of the displays start acting up on their own, like they start on their own without anybody there.
Yeah, we're supposed to be hopefully getting in there again early 2021 as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, that'd be really fun. But yeah. And then another one that they hear is like some of the staff after hours when everybody's supposedly gone home. They hear families and what sounds like families laughing and enjoying plays, and nobody's there, but they hear voices, and it sounds like there's a group of people.
30 seconds.
Yeah. That was one of the accounts there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a really cool. It's a really neat investigation, but it's really echoey.
Uh-huh.
So if you're trying to obtain evidence there, like with audio, it's pretty difficult.
All right, guys, hold on 1 second. We're just about to come back here.
And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose beard oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us in. I'm Dave Scott, hanging out behind the microphone, talking about some weird, strange ghosts tonight. I hope you are all enjoying as well. Do me a favor. If you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. On Twitter, follow us at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking Ghosts of the Great White North from Paranormal Road Trippers. We have Merle here. Yes, the Merle is back. All Merle, all day, all night long. And our special guest from HauntedHistoryBC.com. We have sisters team of Gina and Victoria. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, great to be here. We're having a really good time. So
Good.
yeah,
I hope
everybody
so.
else is out there too.
I hope
Yeah.
so. All right, let's get into the Ouija board, because there is a lot of...
Great, I have that one next.
All right. Well,
Yes.
we got a lot of people out there who debate, discuss, and are still quite petrified and freaked out of the Ouija board. Mike, I know you feel very open about using it as a communication device. Let's hear about your story at the English Inn with the Ouija board.
The English Inn. Yes.
Wow.
So it was the first and only time we've used a Ouija board. We were a little twitchy about it, because first of all, we read books on how, you use a Ouija board and all kinds of demons come forth and you're opening a portal, and, it all sounds very ominous, but we kind of thought, in this case, I bought one and I thought, okay, we'll take it along just for fun. So we went to the English Inn, and the English Inn is a very creepy looking place from the outside. So it was one of those places where, you kind of pull up and it's a very Tudor style, like it's kind of dark, and, the grounds are all woodsy and everything. And we were lucky enough to go when all the outbuildings were there. I think right now it's closed. It's been closed for a while for renovation, so we're not really sure if it's renovating and if it'll ever open, but we were lucky enough to go when all the outbuildings were there. Like, there's a really creepy thatched house, because it was like a copy of the Anne Hathaway cottage in England, and so that was there. The Shakespeare house was there. But this was a 1900s building, so built around 1909, and we went in there, and it was just one of those things where from the get-go, it was one of those times when you sort of just had to be there because it was a very strange arrival as well. So
just an odd way.
It was like, it just kind of felt off. I don't even know how to really explain it. So it felt like, kind of, you walked in, the staff was all very nice, but it just felt like, it was kind of a group of people that you almost feel like haven't been there before. Like they're trying to help you, get to your location. And they were all very lovely people. So we checked in, and then almost immediately, like as we were coming down the stairs, we had one of the staff members sort of almost kidnap us, and he wanted to kind of give us this history. He was really excited about giving us the history on the building. So he showed us, the family crests and talked about some of the artwork, and took us around.
And he took us through this hallway, and he was telling us about his family crest, but the hallway was so narrow too.
Yes,
I didn't even realize that even that hallway was that narrow.
I know. It was like, that's the thing about those old buildings. They have all these nooks and crannies. They have like hallways that stop, and like you think, well, why did they build that? That's just kind of really, really creepy. And one of the really strange things was in Victoria's room. Do you want to talk about your room? Let's talk about describe your room.
Okay,
beautiful room, but then
the room was beautiful. We walked in, we just were checking in at the time, and Gina and her husband came in too as well, checked out the area there, and we're like, okay, great. So we're looking at all the decorations and just everything, but then Gina spotted that, well, your closet looks a little off. So I just kind of happened to open it up there, and oddly, the room wasn't like a full room. There was no window. The roof was sort of slanted, and we just looked in there, and there was like a bed or a cot that was made out there. And I was wondering, well, who would even stay there? Like, for what reason? We started joking, and Gina's husband too, he started making jokes about it and saying that, oh, well, this is really kind of quite creepy. I don't think I would even want to stay in this room.
The bed was weird because it was all made up. There was like a little nightstand, and I'm thinking, who on earth would sleep in there? I mean, it's a closet. It was the creepiest thing ever. So we thought, okay, well, this is kind of starting off good because we're, kind of creeped out, which is kind of why you come to these places, right? So we went to that evening. So we finally, kind of settled and everything. And that evening we thought, okay, let's do a Ouija session. So we kind of read about how to do it right, because you're supposed to like be very respectful. You go in to do your Ouija session, then you have to say goodbye and do all that so you don't let anything in.
So your husband was making notes.
Yes.
While we were doing
the session. So what we were doing is we kind of started, the planchette was the little thing that moves around on the Ouija board. So we kind of put our fingers on it, and it's really creepy when you feel it move. Mm-hmm. So it kind of started pulling around, gave us some information. It seemed like not really a negative entity, but just somebody who's very agitated. So she seemed very agitated. We got information about that she was upset because there was a wedding that didn't happen. And we kind of felt like it was her wedding because of just the intensity of the emotion. We even asked a name and all of that. And oddly, afterwards, looking back on it,
I don't remember.
We couldn't remember a lot of the things. And I have a pretty good memory. I mean, we weren't kind of writing everything down to the notes. So it was one of those things. And I've heard that actually experienced by other paranormal groups, where you go in, you have this experience, and you don't quite recall everything that happened. Mm-hmm. But we did, we called the name at the time and everything. We had this experience. We kind of thought it was cool. We were a little wigged out, and we decided, okay, now we've kind of done that. We've talked to a spirit. We're going to say goodbye. And we went down to the lobby to have a drink. We're like, okay, we need to have a drink. We need to go somewhere where it's well lit and, have a little beverage. Nobody else was in the bar. And that night we went to sleep. So that's where like the really creepy stuff sort of started happening. So my husband and I were trying to get to sleep, and I'm not kidding you. At one point, we heard the closet door kind of click open, and it just kind of creaked open. Now, closet doors, I don't know. Everybody's terrified of closet doors. Like, you talk to people all across, and closet doors are super, super spooky. So here we are in the pitch black, but I can see like the white door, so it's kind of opening up. And of course, we freak out. So I just kind of left it. And as we were laying there, we kept hearing things like furniture moving. It sounded like in the dark, like furniture was being moved around the room. So I would like click on the light, see nothing. And so that was really really scary. And so the next day, we managed to have our breakfast and everything. And then we came back, and I forgot about this part till now.
Mm-hmm.
We came back into the room, and do you remember that we had like something written on the mirror?
Oh, that's right.
It said something. I completely spaced that till the other day. It was like, it was said, and I looked at my picture because I took a picture of it, and it said the time, like what time, like time for what?
Like the mirror was fogged.
The mirror was fogged because I took a shower, right? And you like get up there, and I saw like it etched into the mirror, and I thought, oh my God, that is really super creepy.
Yeah.
So that happened. And as we're getting ready to leave, like we're packing up our stuff, because we're going from there. We were going from English Inn, and then we were going to stay at the Craig Mile Inn, which is right across from Craigdrock Castle, so we could kind of see the castle. So we kind of gathered all our stuff at the English Inn, and as we were doing that, I'm grabbing my suitcase. There's a sofa, and there's this huge chandelier up above. So as I'm grabbing my bag, I feel something fall on me. I'm like, of course, now we're all freaked out anyway, so I kind of twitch and everything. And I look down, and it's a piece from the chandelier. So it's one of the glass pieces. And as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, well, how on earth did this fall? You're trying to kind of explain it and look up. And I looked at the piece. It had a wire on the end, but it wasn't broken. It was solid. And so I'm kind of thinking, well, how on earth did this thing fall on me? I almost took it with me, but I thought, oh no, that's the number one rule. You don't break the rule of taking anything creepy, haunted, especially after the Ouija board. So I just laid it on the couch. I figured they're going to fix it. They're going to put it back on, on the chandelier. And we ended up leaving for the day. But that was really, really creepy. So ever since then, I mean, it wasn't anything negative, but we just kind of thought, we're going to leave the Ouija alone. We have enough stuff out there that, we don't need to be bringing forth anything that we don't want to get rid of.
And I don't think we want to do it again.
No,
definitely not.
No, it creeps me out because since then we've read books, and then we've read books on shadow people, and sometimes they manifest through Ouija board. I don't know.
We like to consider ourselves as hard skeptics, but still at the same time,
I'm a little bit superstitious. I do have to admit.
Do you, with the Ouija boards, do you guys use any other tools to communicate with spirits?
Oh, not at this moment. No. I mean, I have
Just
things like, we had flashlights, and we had things like digital recorders. We didn't capture anything. I have things like, some people I know that use tarot cards. I do have them. I have not used them for that purpose. But so far, no. No, we just use the Ouija.
I posted about a Ouija board about a week ago on a couple different paranormal groups, and I'm still getting flack over it. But for me, I find a Ouija board is basically an old-fashioned tool of the modern-day spirit box, or K2. Because when people are like, oh no, Ouija boards, don't touch that. Hold on, let me get my spirit box. Mm-hmm. I'll say to them, I'll be like, well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
And then that's where they kind of just go, oh, I'm like, you're communicating or trying to communicate with the afterlife. So
yeah, when I was doing research on it, I actually found that it actually went back to like the Egyptian times. They had something called a Senate board, which was a game board at the time, but it was kind of focused on, moving the spirit onto the afterlife. It was a game, but it means they kind of say that, it was that maybe originated, just kind of led to the, invention of the Ouija board. And that was sort of something similar back in the day. So I think that's been around for a really, really long time as a tool to kind of bridge, communication between the dead and the living. And that was a huge focus in Egyptian times, of course. So I don't know if that's true, but I mean, yeah, I totally agree that it could be something that is like a old-fashioned spirit box, because why not?
Another thing I've heard about the Ouija board is it was used as a tool to get couples together. That, back in the days when heaven forbid put your hand on a lady's leg, vice versa. It was meant for people to be closer together and do that together as well. Yes,
because supposedly your knees would be touching, and that was supposed to be like an erotic type, interaction back in Victorian days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was our experience with the Ouija. So I still have it. I didn't get rid of it. So who knows? Maybe someday we will, maybe you'll have a little revival. I don't know, but that was...
I was investigating the Pink Palace in Surrey last week or the week before.
Ooh.
And the staff there, I was watching them use it, and here's a good ghost story for you. So we were on the third floor of the Pink Palace, and they were doing the old Ouija board, and they're like, "You're moving it. No, you're moving it." So they're doing the whole that, but they were getting answers. And then all of a sudden, in the room by where the Ouija board was being used, so we were in the hallway, but the room, you could hear people talking, like a woman talking.
Oh, that's creepy.
And the hotel's abandoned.
Wow.
And we couldn't unlock the door. We were with the manager, she couldn't unlock the door, and it was just really freaky.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah.
See, that would be scary, not being able to unlock a door. I'm glad we haven't experienced that. And that was the one time that we used the Ouija at the English Inn, but I've been to the English Inn before, where I had a kind of a creepy experience. So it was just me and my husband this time. We were staying there. This was like back when we weren't really investigating, ghosts or anything, but we were sleeping, and in the middle of the night, the door opens to our room, and a woman comes in. She's in her nightgown, and she says, "Oh, I think I've got the wrong room." And, I kind of have a few words and everything. And then she strolls back out. I close the door. And at this time I locked the deadbolt because I'm like, okay, does somebody have a key or, but I wasn't going to worry about it. And I thought the next day I'm just going to go downstairs and talk to the staff. And I did talk to the lady at the front desk, and I said, I think maybe there's just a mix up because somebody walked into our room last night. And, she said, yeah, but there's no other key. And I thought, well, maybe I didn't lock the door from the inside. And she said, well, yeah, but remember in the rooms, once the door closes, the door is locked from the outside. So she didn't look like a ghost. And there was nobody else on the floor, which was the weirdest thing, because they said the next day they had the place kind of empty because there was a wedding party coming. So we were only there for like a day before we moved on to go to a different hotel. But I thought that was really weird. So the English Inn for me, I actually really loved. So I'm hoping in the renovations, they're not going to be too harsh on the actual building, because it is a beautiful building. And I think a lot of energy kind of sticks around there. So I think, and ghosts don't like renovations, I don't think.
No, that's one thing I've been told by clients and curators of places we've gone is the more you mess around with the locations they're used to, the more it disrupts their everyday, I would say life, but their everyday routine.
Yeah, and another reason we were really glad from the historical side that we did go there the few times that we did go there, because we're able to at least get really good photos of the thatched house. And even when you go to our website, that's one of the first on our homepage. That's the first picture. There is the thatched house, and
no longer exists.
And it no longer exists. So we are really, really happy when those types of things where we can be there, and that's one of the motivations again for doing this stuff is that, here we got something that is no longer there. The outbuildings are no longer there. When we were there, they were quite overgrown and creepy looking, but we still got a lot of really, beautiful photos, and we're happy that we can pass those along, and now they're preserved forever, and we can have them out there for the public to see. So
all right, I guess I'll jump in here because I finally get to talk. You two have been doing absolutely amazing along with Merle. All right, when it comes to the paranormal, ghosts and everything that people are looking for, Gina, Victoria, I'm curious, as we've got about just over 6 minutes here to go before we go to break at the top of the hour, what do you think ghosts are?
I think it's just it is leftover energy. I mean, that's the most common explanation, and I really do kind of believe that it's once you pass on, there's an energy that gets left behind. And in some cases it gets left behind to the point where, it can actually sort of manifest for whatever reason, whether it's unrest or, a certain person who died there maybe loved the place and they still want to stay. So, that could be the case.
Yeah.
In the situation of cemeteries, a lot of people talk about cemeteries and say, oh, it's not really a place where hauntings happen because the people didn't die there. And I do tend to agree with that, they didn't die there. But I think when a lot of rituals happen in a location, like there's a lot of different denominations that gather for, burying their dead.
Grieving.
There's a lot of grieving. There's a lot of intense emotion. And there's, and that goes on over and over and over again at some locations. So I kind of think that those places just attract other energies. So that might not be necessarily a person who died at the graveyard or that's buried there, but something's attracting energy to this place because of the energy we give off. And I think sometimes the energy we give off can help something come to life, so to speak.
And that's why we always look into the history as well.
Yes.
But also we look at the foundation of the geography of the place as well too. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So
yeah, and certainly places, they say that places with water and different types of things kind of attract energies, right? So I just think there's sometimes a lot of intense energy that's left over. And there's different kinds, of course. People have heard of like the residual hauntings where things are just kind of replaying over and over again, which I tend to believe that there's, the stone tape theory and all of that certain places kind of give off like, they're like a tape recording. And then people have seen things like they've seen like whole Civil War, battles happen, just like snippets of them. And so to me, that's really, really fascinating. So that's left behind. And then with the more intelligent hauntings, I think it is people that are still left that are trying to communicate with the living for whatever reason, whether it's, whether we're, and we think that a lot of times that those things just sort of manifest and they just happen for the moment. I think that those energies are around us all the time, but we're not always in tune with them and we're not always in the headspace to be in tune with them. So, sometimes I think they're around and we just don't notice. So I think you have to kind of open yourself up to the possibility of that happening. And there are people who experience things like hauntings that never thought about seeing a ghost or never wanted to see a ghost, but it happens for whatever reason. And I just think with that, it's you're just happening to be at the right place at the right time.
That's what's interesting. See, one of the things that I'm battling right now with ghosts, are they just acting on a different timeline and we're the ghost to them?
Dimension.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that is looked at as well, like the parallel worlds going on at the same time. And that's what we talked about earlier. Yeah. And earlier we talked a little bit about during one of the breaks and for the YouTube folks out there, we talked about the whole doppelganger thing, so doppelgangers, a lot of times people say that, you see your doppelganger, but you're sort of on a different timeline and you're seeing yourself, but it's in a different timeline, which is completely freaky to me to kind of think of that. But so that is a possibility. I kind of think that it could be possible.
Merle, what's your thoughts?
I think it is a possibility, but I do think, like when we were just talking about residual hauntings earlier, I think some of them don't realize they're passed away, and I think some do. Mm-hmm. Like the hotel we were investigating this past weekend, the curator there says she'll go in there some nights and she'll hear people partying, having fun, like old time partying and having fun. And it's the same time, usually the same day of the week. Like one of the things there, every Friday or every Monday night at 8 p.m. they have in the 1800s, early 1900s, they had like a movie night, the old-fashioned movie projector. And one of the tells of this place is the residual haunting of people going up and down the hallway, seeing a lady in a white dress going up and down the hallway, walking, because the theater room is still set up how it was back in the day. When we walked in there, we're like, oh my God, time warp. And when we were rolling audio and investigating, we played some old time music because there was the same music stand with the old original. It had like music on it too, like that you'd read or play a guitar with or whatever. And we matched that song on YouTube, and we played that song really low. And we heard, no word of a lie, we heard footsteps in the hallway coming towards where the theater was. So I do think that the residual hauntings are a thing. But I don't think we're, like what Dave said, we're the dead ones.
No, we just might feel like it sometimes,
Well, you know what? We've got about a minute to go here. The reason why I bring that up is we had a situation here on an investigation I was on where we met up with a Chinese couple going to Barkerville, BC. And maybe it was just coincidence, but they wouldn't move their cart, or what we assume was their horse and buggy, because everyone traveled by them, until all of us left the path. That's what weirds me out. That's what makes me question absolutely everything right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's something to think about. We're going to continue on here on Spaced Out Radio. And we have another hour left on the show. So Ghost of the Great White North with Merle from Paranormal Road Trippers will continue right after this, along with our special guests from hauntedhistorybc.com. We have the sister team of Gina and Victoria. We're having a great night, great stories tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I hope you are enjoying them as much as I do. At the bottom of the hour, we are going to get into the SOR News Wire and the Thought of the Day. A jam-packed hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio coming up next.
Woo, there we go.
Hey, Merle.
All right.
Sorry, I just got to talk to Merle here for a quick sec. Merle, that photo that I sent you, that's above my sister's house.
That would stress me out.
Okay, yeah. So, but here's the thing. If you look at that photo, and I'll end up posting this on YouTube later so you guys can see. Okay. See where the water bomber is dropping its retardant?
Yep.
Go straight up that white cloud. Just draw a straight line up. Okay. In the cloud, there is a little black speck on the cloud. I don't know if that's a plane, a bird, or something else. I'm not thinking it's a bird because
Mothman?
Because birds are not really in the area of forest fire smoke.
Wow.
I'll be right back. You think about that. You guys chat away with the audience.
Okay, we'll chat away with the audience.
I will be right back too in about 1 minute.
Okay, so I think what we will chat about is some local stories. So I have a couple of local stories from people in Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge. My first one is from Pitt Meadows, BC, a fellow that I know named Bob, who goes and visits his sister in Pitt Meadows. She just has a regular old house, and he believes it's haunted. He is not a believer. He's not somebody who feeds into the paranormal. He said, I'm not a believer. I've never believed, but this house, there's something wrong with it. So one day he was over for Thanksgiving, and they had just gathered after dinner into the living room. They were all going to watch a movie. There was about 8 family members that were gathered in there. So they all sat down, they're chit-chatting and everything. They've all got their places on the couch, on the chair. They're about ready to start the movie. They got their snacks. And all of a sudden, they hear the door open and slam, and what sounded like somebody running up the stairs. Of course, they were really, really, really freaked out. So they thought, oh my God, it's an intruder. It's, a neighborhood kid. Somebody ran up the stairs, and they thought, okay, we got to go look. So dog ran back up there. The family members ran over there, and they searched and searched. They searched for maybe 40 minutes, and they looked through every door, closet. Okay, where's this person who ran up the stairs? They didn't find anything. So they were pretty disturbed by this. Nonetheless, because you're expecting to have somebody in your, it's a disturbing thought to have somebody in your house, first of all, and then not to find anything. So, they were really creeped out. And from there, I don't know what happened after that, but they didn't find anything. So the second story, he said another time he was in the house. So this is what makes him believe that there's something wrong. He was in the living room again. Sister, brother-in-law in the kitchen. They're kind of fixing some snacks or drinks or whatever. And he just kind of hanging out with the dog. Well, all of a sudden, this dog runs to the foot of the staircase again, is really fixated on something on the stairs, and it's growling and it's snarling. And he's thinking, oh my goodness, what's happening? So he wanders over to the dog. The dog is just looking up the stairs, and eerily, Bob looks up and sees an outline of a figure. And he said it wasn't like a ghostly figure. It was kind of staticky. So he said it was like static on your TV. So I saw this thing. He said, I didn't know what the hell I was seeing. I'm looking at it, and it was about maybe 10 or 15 seconds. I mean, it takes a while for your mind to wrap around what you're seeing too. So you think like you'd be calling out to somebody to come and look at it, but he had to kind of fixate and look and couldn't believe quite what he was seeing. So it took him about 6-7 seconds to kind of grasp like, oh, I'm looking at this and it's in the middle of the stairs. And then it just disappeared. So something about that staircase for sure. That, like, what would you think? I mean, you'd be kind of freaked out. So, and they did a little bit of research. They found that a long time ago, there was a farmhouse on the property, but they didn't actually look into any history. Like if somebody died there, violently, or, you always kind of think like, why is there somebody hovering on the stairwell and what's going on? But those would be very, very freaky things.
Is that place kind of close to me?
It is. It's actually,
wow.
Yes, it's a few streets down. So
God,
it is close.
Me.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Definitely. I don't want to purchase that house.
Yeah, so that was a really local story of just like a few streets down. And so the other one is from here in Maple Ridge, and it's one of my neighbors. And it's funny, when you tell people that you kind of are interested in this, people really want to come to you with their stories. So I chatted with him actually last night because I had to ask him permission if I used another story just in case. And so he said, I've got another story for you. So he's oftentimes in his kitchen, he said, in the last little bit. And this has been only going on for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, where he goes into the kitchen. He has a TV in there. So he's watching the TV. He's fixing something to eat. And all of a sudden, his convection oven has been started firing up on its own. And not just turning on. So he watches it. So he stands in the kitchen, and he said on these particular occasions, he's looking at it, and actually it's going through all the functions. So it's going from like defrost to toast to pizza, and he just waiting for it to like land on something, because he said somebody's like manipulating the dial, and it has a dial. So it's not like it can just kind of fire up and do one function, but it's kind of searching for different functions. So now he's so freaked out, because it's actually happened in the last 3 weeks a couple of times, that he's been turning this damn thing off in the middle of the night, because he's like, I don't want to leave it plugged in overnight, because I'm just feeling like this ghost or whatever it is
30 seconds
is going to be like making toast in the middle of the night. So yeah, he said it's really disconcerting. So he said that's been kind of a new thing that's happening. So he's looked for all kinds of, like electrical reasons why it's happening and what it's doing. But I joked with him. I said, well, throw some toast in there. And maybe he calls the ghost Ruthie. So he has a name for her. He talks to her. And
all right,
so
ladies.
maybe Ruthie will make you some toast.
SpacedOutRadio.com.
All right, here we go. Music's on.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate you taking the time. Hi to everyone on our terrestrial affiliates across the continent and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Always remember, you can check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Parabolanis. Parabolanis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. On Twitter, follow us at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Ghosts of the Great White North. We got Merle from Paranormal Road Trippers here, and our special guest tonight, the sister team of Gina and Victoria. They are with hauntedhistorybc.com if you want to check them on out. Ladies, Merle, welcome back.
Hello there.
Awesome.
Hello.
Thank you, Dave.
Now, Merle, you're going to kick things off here.
Yes. So I always like to ask teams this. Give us one of your most, I want to say, scary encounters where you guys thought it was a bit too much. Well, on investigations.
I would say definitely the Pendray Inn.
Yeah.
Because that was so intense and so many different things happened. And even some of the things that I mentioned, we even left out stuff like as on that same night where we had the cork flying and the disembodied voice and all of that, at one point we were actually coming up the stairs where towards the end of the night, as we were partying on the landing to go our separate ways to 2 different rooms, we sort of heard a woman's voice, say good night or something. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. I know. And then Bill, your husband, he just responded back thinking that it was
one of us saying something. I said, I didn't say anything. And none of us said anything.
Nobody did.
And then you had the mystery.
Well, that was the next morning.
Yes.
I was getting ready for breakfast, and we were decided that we're going to actually probably meet at a particular time. I think it was around 10 or something. Mm-hmm. And I was just getting ready. I was still in my room, but it wasn't even 10 o'clock, and I hear somebody knocking on the door. And I thought to myself, well, wow, that's kind of crazy, because I thought we set a time, and it was almost an hour and a half before our time. And I hear someone knocking on the door. And so I just went over there thinking it was Gina. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to open the door. And sure enough, nobody was around. So I started looking around in the hallway. I mean, the hallway was fairly open space. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like a hallway where somebody could be just around the corner. I mean, the rooms were all spaced out. You could see them. It was out in the open.
Yeah, it's more like a landing. So
Exactly.
Nobody could duck behind or anything so we kind of continued to have very strange occurrences that night. And we weren't expecting it at all, because we just got done with the walk that night. So that was a little bit freaky. So that one was freaky, because there was just so much stuff happened. We kept thinking somebody's got to be playing a trick. So
I know we kept saying, no way, that we didn't hear this, we didn't see this.
But we couldn't really debunk. So we were just okay, well, it happened. We're just going to take it as the experience that was there. But I would say it didn't really freak us out as so much as your adrenaline's really running high when you're doing stuff like that and when you experience it. So you're just kind of hyped up and but it was definitely kind of intense.
And the great part, too, was also when the next morning I wanted to talk to some of the staff over there. Mm-hmm. I was trying to hold back, and I tried to make sure that I didn't go a little bit overboard so they didn't think I'm kind of like some kooky mm-hmm. person there. So anyway, so I just wanted to ask in a subtle way, if other guests have had any type of experiences, if they shared anything with anybody there who was working there. Mm-hmm. And I remember the lady in the lobby, she just said to me, because I asked her too, well, we've noticed on your website you have a little bit of a paranormal story behind the Pendray Inn. And she just kind of grinned and she goes, yeah, it's just there for, tourists' sake. And I'm like, okay, but has anybody told you that maybe they've heard voices? Or she just kind of looked at me a little bit, but she was also quite intrigued. And she says, what kind of voices? And I've had mentioned to her about the voice that we heard in that dining room. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, we didn't hear about that. But she looked quite serious. And she almost looked like she was a little bit freaked out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was the best, I would say, experience probably. That was the creepiest, because it just kept on going.
That was the creepiest. I do have another one about where I live currently. So
yes,
that's why I started talking to the neighbors. I didn't do it right away. We only moved in here last year in March. And then even from the very first night that we came in here. So the first night we spent in here, in the middle of the night, huge crash. And of course I'm thinking, I've got a couple cats. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, something got knocked over, a cabinet fell over. When you move stuff, you just kind of cram it into the corner. Didn't see anything. So looked around, nothing to be seen. Ever since then, we still hear stuff in the hallway. We still hear stuff in the kitchen. And one particular night, I just got done a couple weeks before doing a kitchen renovation. And it was kind of like a half kitchen renovation. We kind of painted the cabinets. We didn't take anything out, but we sanded everything down, made it look all nice. And so I'm sitting there, it's about 11 o'clock one night, I'm looking at the cabinets, kind of admiring our little handiwork there. And I kind of noticed a little section where it looks kind of like a little bit orange or something on there. So I thought, oh geez, is it peeling already? Because it was oak cabinets behind there. So I kind of took a closer look and I'm like, oh, it's food. There's food spatters. I'm like, what the hell? I'm grabbing my sponge or whatever to wipe it off and I'm thinking, okay, well, it's kind of behind the hinge there. So I open up the cupboard. And just shortly before that, we heard this huge bang that sounded like an explosion going off in our kitchen. We rushed in there, couldn't see anything. But when I opened the drawer, it was a jar of soup where the lid blew straight off. And there was soup everywhere in this counter, in this cupboard. So I thought, oh my God, it's 11 o'clock at night. I just want to go to sleep. But now I'm stuck cleaning this thing. So we took out all the cans and everything. I'm wiping everything down. And then where the cabinets kind of connect to the wall, there's like a little space. So I kind of managed to clean everything up, but I see there's like spatter of soup. So I kind of take a little butter knife with a little piece of paper towel, and I'm kind of scrubbing back there, total OCD kind of kicks in. I got to get like every single piece out of there. But I pull the butter knife out, and I am not kidding you. There was money back there. So old bills, and I'm talking like 1950s. It wasn't like you're going to be rich type of money, but we probably all together found like a little over $100. So to me, I thought, oh my God, we kept joking. Oh my God, the ghost wanted us to find this money behind the counter or behind the cupboard. And so we kind of dug out what we could. And, now we've already done our reno. So whatever's back there, I don't know if anything more is back there. But the next day, my husband went back in with with a coat hanger. I was at work in the day. And he texted me pictures. So he still found another $20 and another $10 bill. But these are like really, really old bills.
Collector's money.
And so ever since then, and so we found out that there was a guy named Jack who lived in this unit before, and he died in here. So I call my ghost Jack. So I kind of say, hey, Jack. So when I hear like rummaging in the kitchen, or we hear him on a regular basis. We've heard like a voice out of nowhere. Like sometimes we think like, oh, did somebody say something? And it's just the two of us in here. And I can't explain that. So it wasn't an intentional investigation, but it was an occurrence that was just so mind-blowing. And if it was a coincidence, it was like the biggest coincidence in my entire life. So that is my other really creepy story about actually where I live right now. So I'm convinced this building has some energy left over.
How about attachments? Have you guys ever experienced any sort of attachments from your investigations?
Not from investigations, but I do have a ghost cat that follows me. So the ghost cat followed me from my old place where I lived, and I moved last year. We always felt like we feel a cat brushing up against us. We've heard a cat meowing. I've got two, but every time I look at them, when I hear this, they're like dead asleep. We've felt a cat jump on the bed. We look up to expect to see one of our cats, and there's nothing. So that's the only one, but nothing sinister. So we've never experienced anything like attaching itself and that you brought anything home so far.
But I think, Gina, you sense, I think, a little bit more than I do, because even when we went on some of the trips too, you've actually were drawn to certain areas too. So,
sometimes. So I kind of have a little bit of a, just that little bit of a feeling when there's something, or I've kind of get some names sometimes, or an image of a person or something like that. But no, never brought them home so far.
Oh, you're lucky. You're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a lot of room. I heard Annabelle escaped, right? So we're kind of making up the guest room for her in case she shows up.
Well, I don't think you want any of that. I mean, she'll pick up. She'll pick up Mandy, and the next thing you know, you got the haunted dolls, and Robert the doll will come up from Florida and don't take his photo without his permission.
Yeah. The dolls freak me out. So that one we'll kind of leave alone for now. We'll go look at them from afar.
Absolutely.
I agree. All right, as we continue on with Ghosts of the Great White North, Merle is here from Paranormal Road Trippers and from Haunted. All of a sudden, hauntedhistorybc.com. We have Gina and Victoria as well, as we are continuing on here on the show here. And I want to get into a topic here that is really close to actually where I used to live. And it's the Maple Ridge and Wannock cemeteries, because being an old mission boy myself, Mission, British Columbia, where I had a lot of strange occurrences. That corridor between Maple Ridge and Mission, there's a lot of weird things that happen along there. And from the history that I have been able to learn, that was an area where there was a lot of battles between the settlers and the First Nations, as well as between different First Nation tribes. I mean, it was a violent area back then.
Oh, yeah. And recently, we just actually this weekend, we went to Maple Ridge Cemetery and the Wannock Cemetery. And yeah, and there was the settlers. There was I'll let you talk about this one.
Yeah,
Let
well, the
Victoria
Warnock
talk about this one.
Cemetery was also referred to as the Lee Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were doing some research on it too as well, we actually know a few people who still live there, and they're actually descendants from the actual the pioneers over there. But it was interesting because when we were first trying to find the location, it's just off the beaten path. And it's just very peaceful, but it's a very tucked away area, and it's on a dead end street. And it is a private area. It's no longer in use. That's what we discovered. But the people who have been buried there, they've got a lot of rich history. Like, there's a lot of interesting things. It's well worth the visit. I would actually recommend, if anybody is local, that just to be immersed in your own backyard. Check it out. It's very interesting. The Warnock itself, it adopted the name from a local First Nation people, and it actually refers to place of the humpback salmon. Mm-hmm. And the very worst, what I found, what was really interesting about the cemetery itself, there's you would probably miss it, like the graveyard mm-hmm. over there. Some of the markers are actually visible, and others aren't. Mm-hmm. Some have markings, some don't. You can't even tell some of the people have been buried there. But it was very interesting that by the 1880s, when the railway was actually established, the homesteads began filling up over there, and the settlers who came in, they were primarily from Great Britain and Norway. And we never even knew that the Norwegians were actually part of the primary pioneers over there. That was interesting.
Yeah. No, we didn't. And both cemeteries, Maple Ridge and Warnock, both have a Japanese section.
That's the other one.
So that's the other really interesting thing, that they both have, that was a big part of Maple Ridge and mm-hmm. Pitt Meadows' history was, the Japanese settlers that came and worked here and, started things up. So as pioneers, they opened shops and they had farms and.
Yeah. And the Norwegian settlers, at least, they were the ones who set up the cemetery, a portion of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it was just a very interesting, very creepy feeling. We went in there. It is peaceful. There's mm-hmm. a lot of mature trees there. It's very beautiful, but in some ways it's very eerie. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that, as Gina pointed out, that when the Japanese settlers moved in, it was very interesting because they also were quite into berry farming, and they were very successful at doing that. But after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, unfortunately, the Canadian government, they evicted them. And as Merle mentioned too, the internment camps, mm-hmm. they were sent there to the interior.
Yeah.
It was just interesting. We lived here for so many years, and I've never I didn't even know the background to the story, to the cemetery. So it was interesting.
And we did try to do some EVPs. I know that's not a common, belief that you'll catch anything at a cemetery. We've had a couple, groups tell us that they have caught things. So, we didn't get anything, but, we got
used also a digital recorder. And
so we didn't get anything as far as that goes. But yes, definitely some good history around this area. Down here, also, there's an old church down here in Maple Ridge, like right by the Maple Ridge Museum. And that one is kind of an old one. And what people have experienced there is, it's a church that's still in use, but people say that after hours they've heard voices and like groups of people. It almost seems like there's parishioners at the church, like really, really late at night. So that's been kind of a really eerie story. Mm-hmm. The Maple Ridge Museum itself has no hauntings. I mean, that one, paranormal groups have come in. They've done the Haney House and Maple Ridge Museum, and there's been no activity there. So,
but the Pitt Meadows Museum had something.
Yeah, that one, and that one we're working on with somebody there to kind of compile some stuff, because we're going to hopefully go in there, and they were very, very open to gathering some good material for us. We haven't seen it yet, but we're very excited.
But they had a paranormal investigator group over there as well about a few years back, and apparently they captured something and they've documented that information. So when anybody who does visit the museum, you can actually read up on the whole report. It's quite fascinating. They've apparently captured some lights too as well, like in
because they do the ghostly tours.
They do, yeah.
They do the ghostly tours again. So that's always, kind of a fun thing to do too. So
right around Halloween usually.
Yeah.
So that was always interesting.
Yeah, and just a little ways away too. I mean, and kind of drifting a little further out, there's always, there's Fort Langley too, and we sort of mentioned that one on our website because we were lucky enough to do the Grave Tales tour, which was a really good ghost walk. You hear a lot of stories of the fur traders, First Nations. A lot of people came here for the gold rush, so that was, there's a lot of stuff that happened. There's a lot of competition.
And Hawaiian influence as well.
Yeah, Hawaiian influence. So there was a Hawaiian settlers in Fort Langley that we didn't know about.
Yeah. And
so, we went through there, and then there's been a lot of report of unrest and paranormal activity in parts of town. And, in the earliest parts, the Katsi and Kwantlen and Matsqui First Nations were there. And then Fort Langley eventually, became a huge export for lumber to the Hawaiian Islands. So one of the Hawaiian folks that are seen as an apparition is a fellow called Peo Peo. And he actually, for St. George's Church that's still there in Fort Langley, he built the metal cross that's on top of the church. And people supposedly see him around the grounds. And though we had nothing ghostly happen on the ghost walk, and we didn't expect it to. I mean, we just were going there for the history and for the walkthrough. But I did take a bunch of pictures because we always take a ton of pictures. And one of the eeriest pictures I got was near the cemetery and the church. And if you look towards kind of the back of my photo, and I want somebody else to analyze this, so I want to go to Fort Langley and just say, can somebody please look at this? But it looks like an image like that you can see through, an apparition. It almost has like that native Hawaiian, like a headdress, and it kind of looks like that. Because at first when I was looking through my photos, I saw, well, who was there? Because we were in a bigger group. We had probably about 20 people with us in this group, and I thought somebody must have wandered away and got into the picture. And as I start kind of zooming in on it with my iPhone, I thought
definitely wasn't somebody.
It wasn't some. No, you can see through it, but it's in the image of an actual, like a human figure. Yeah. So that one was kind of interesting. I'm not going to say that that's it for sure, because photos can be kind of twitchy, especially at night, because we went at night. But the storyteller was amazing. So we really loved all the stories about the apparitions and wandering through the graveyard and everything. People have seen a First Nations ghost that's been repeatedly seen, and people describe him in the similar way. So multiple people have seen him and described him to like real similar accuracy. So, something's there. People have seen like a ghostly boy, who kind of plays in one of the playgrounds that's beside the church. So they say that, they've seen children. People have seen a blacksmith doing his work in one of the buildings. Cold spots have been felt. So there's definitely something. And then there's a spirit with a lantern who walks around the grounds. That would be kind of creepy. So Absolutely. A lot of interesting history locally. Mm-hmm.
We only got about 2.5 minutes left with all of you tonight, and it's a show that has flown on by, and I say thank you so much for that. Merle, what's your projects coming up here in the next little bit? And holy crap, do I have a big daddy long leg spider in my studio that I'm staring at right now, and this is, we're going to have to get him out. Merle.
My projects right now are to go through 6 or 7 investigations of evidence, so I have a bunch of audio and video to go through. I'll probably post all that stuff on YouTube when we're done it, so we can share our evidence and history on that. And I've got multiple investigations at a hotel in Surrey coming up, Surrey, British Columbia, and I got some stuff coming up in Vernon. So busy.
And how about for you ladies?
We have a few things. So we did mention our calendar with Greg Mansfield. So we're going to do Haunted Vancouver Ghosts. So that will be coming out in October of this year. So it is just weeks away, literally. Yeah. And then we're working on a couple of book projects. Yeah. So we have a book in the works called Evenings and Avenues, Hauntings and the Outskirts. So all the things we talked about. Yeah. Vancouver proper has been the territory of some people, so we kind of don't want to encroach upon that, and it's been written about. So, and there's people who continue to investigate, so we kind of want to respect that, but there's a lot of, hauntings out there that haven't been covered. We talked about that earlier in the show. So we're hoping to kind of just, discover a few more of those. So, and of course, just going weekly to locations where we can explore. We want to have a few more cemeteries on the plate and so on. So
check out sites that probably are not necessarily popular.
And we're going to kick out our contest. So
absolutely,
starting I think tomorrow or the next day, since we want to wait till the radio show, but we're going to kick off a contest on Twitter, and we will have a link on our website called Otherworldly Ghosts. So we want your ghost stories from around the world. We'll be picking 15 winners to win prizes for like the best ones that we enjoy. We'll be giving them free calendars, either free postcards or whatever to the winners, but everybody will be featured on our site at one point if they're okay with us sharing. So that'll be something that we will kick off here in the next day or two. Yeah. So just pay attention to our Twitter, go on our website, and we'll be there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Merle, for coming back on Ghosts of the Great White North. We'll talk to you next month, my friend.
Sounds good.
And Gina and Victoria from Haunted History BC.com. I just wanted the dramatics there. HauntedHistoryBC.com. You guys were fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up after this. Great show, ladies. And Merle?
Awesome. Oh, thank you. That went by so fast.
Thank you, Dave.
We'll give you a little clap here.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you.
It was awesome.
Amazing.
You have fun?
We had lots of fun. It was great.
Well, make sure you put the recording on your website, because I'm number one. I'm number one.
You are.
You are number one.
Best, Dave.
Yes, I am officially number one, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Like, it was just such an amazing thing to be able to come over and, chat with you. And we were just amazed that you reached out to us. really, really, really great.
Well, no problem.
2020 is looking up.
It is. Yes, it is.
Well, you know what? You got Merle here, so that's all that matters. You got the Merle.
Keep in contact.
Yeah.
Keep in contact. In the same area.
Forward, to checking out some of the more information and stuff that you have too, Merle.
Oh yeah, because we didn't listen to the. I want to hear the one on the demons and the demonology.
Yes.
So I didn't get a chance to listen to that show. So one we want to listen to.
Wonderful.
Indeed.
Wonderful. I have to run, ladies and Merle, because I got to prepare for the news. But thank you so much for coming on in. Really do appreciate it. And thanks for a great show.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Awesome.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Merle, I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Merle, everybody. Merle. All right.
Merle.
Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That was a good show. Good show. I like them. They got good energy. Good energy. I'm just getting the news ready. Hey, Kristen Alberg is here, everyone. Kristen Alberg. Yes, we can officially start the show with Kristen Alberg now here. Just getting the news ready. How many stories? I need a couple more. Yeah, there we go. There we go. We're good for the news now. We are good for the news now. We got 1 minute. One minute. 1 minute. Uno momento. Yeah, no, that was kind of gross. Not going there tonight. All right, here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting here in the studio, spider-free now. Got rid of the daddy long legs, put it outside. No, I do not kill spiders. I do not kill spiders. They eat a lot of bugs. You can't kill them. You just got to put them outside. So that's what I did. Anyways, want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. On Twitter, you can follow us at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, here we go. Let's do this thing. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky. Yeah, and sometimes we travel around the world. Stunned locals have spotted a series of unidentified flying objects over the sky of Sydney. The spectators reported seeing the strange lights during the early hours of Wednesday morning. The residents said they weren't sure what they were seeing, but some speculated it might have been satellites or even a UFO. But the sighting was later put down to Elon Musk's recent Starlink satellite constellation launched by SpaceX. Funny, I didn't think you could see them in the daylight. It was the aerospace company's 100th successful launch, and its 11th as part of the Starlink mission to create a global high-speed internet service. Yes, apparently it looked like a slow-moving line of satellites or something. It was very odd, said one person. Another said the strange lights looked like they were with the width of the moon. Another person said they thought they were looking at the space station. I thought it was a space station, at least. I thought the sun was hitting on it, but then it was moving a lot slower than the space station usually does. Meanwhile, others joked it was aliens because, you know what, you can never have enough aliens. Oops, I got in trouble for that earlier. But after seeing the state of the Earth in 2020, they decided to go home. Lights could also be seen in England, where Keith Mayo managed to get footage just before posting it on Twitter. The lights could also be seen from his garden about a little bit ago, and he said, I saw an object floating across the sky, west to east. Too slow for a plane, no sound, sun glimmering off of it. Oh yeah, everybody's got aliens now. Everybody. Could be a weather balloon. Don't forget. Roswell was a weather balloon, allegedly. A toy hand from a Lego set has come out of a boy's nose 2 years after it got stuck in his nostril. Samir Anwar from Dunedin on New Zealand's South Island was playing with the Lego piece in 2018 when he decided to shove it up his nose. What kid doesn't do that? His dad, Mudassir, shot a torch up Samir's nose at the time but could not see it. The GP that they went to told the family that it would quickly find its way out through a natural body causes, but it didn't. Since then, they were pretty confident that he didn't have anything in his nose. However, little Samir wasn't so certain that the hand from his Lego set had made its way to the other side. His dad said he was complaining in the days after. He said, "No, there's something in my nose," but 2 years on, the family had assumed it had passed through. But thankfully, this week, little Samir, I don't know if he was having a pick or what. Well, anyways, he was out with his family having a muffin with some fairy dust on top that agitated his nose. According to the father, he started getting anxious again, and we said to him, "Just go and blow your nose." So he did. Okay, so it wasn't a pick, it was a blow. Anyways, to the surprise of the family and little Samir, the black Lego hand came out into the tissue, leaving him really surprised. We were all shocked, his eyes wide open. He's like, "I found the Lego! I kept telling you it was in there, but you said that it was not. Or was it snot?" I don't know. Today, Samir has been told, or been to the doctor once more and been told for the second time, and hopefully the last, that his nostrils are all clear. "I was surprised and a bit scared," Samir said, adding that he still is a massive Lego fan and that he's impressed that the piece had stayed intact. Oh, good old Samir. I like that story. I don't know why, but I like that story. Okay. Japan is largely tolerant of salarymen snoozing on trains after an evening out, but authorities now are getting a little worried because there's a new alcohol trend. More than 7,000 cases of Rojoni, literally sleeping on the road, last year. So apparently what happens is you go out with the boys or the girls, you go get absolutely wasted to the point where you're going to pass out, and instead of getting your buddies to drive you home, no, you just find a piece of road and go to sleep right there. So police in Japan's southernmost prefecture, located 1,000 miles from Tokyo, are thought to be the only force in the country that keeps statistics on Rojoni. I didn't even know what the term was before coming to Okinawa. I think it's a phenomena unique to this island, one person said, who became prefectural police chief less than a year ago. In most instances, people are roused for their impromptu slumber before coming to any harm. But 16 of those cases last year resulted in accidents, 3 of them fatal. Who the hell just falls asleep in the middle of the road? Anyways, restrictions on Japan's nighttime economy prompted by the coronavirus has failed to slow the trend. In the 6 months of this year, police have received 2,702 Rojoni emergency calls, about the same number as at the same point last year. I mean, you can't make this up. It's going on. Locals believe Okinawa's warm weather combined with, some fancy type of alcohol, which is unique to the island, that gets you drunk really, really fast, are what's fueling this phenomena, a criminal offense that can result in up to a 50,000 yen fine, so about $400. Anyways, radio broadcasts and a photo exhibition warning of the dangers of Rojoni do not appear to have convinced drinkers to stop while they are still capable of making it safely into their own beds. Oh no, not at all. Don't get me wrong, one person said, alcohol isn't bad, it's just bad to drink in excess. No kidding. No kidding. Let's move on. What's with Japan? Honestly, what are they doing over there? So now a pair of Tokyo parks are attracting extra attention. Why? Well, they built their public toilets with transparent walls. So now everybody's going to know whether you are a toilet paper hoard, if you wash your hands before or after, or if you sit or stand to pee. Yes, the restrooms, designed by Shigeru Ban architects, feature the see-through walls that turn opaque when the user enters the facility. Oh, okay. So I overreacted here. That's okay. That's okay. I overreacted. Okay, so the walls change color the minute you start doing your doo-doo. Yeah, what do you do with your doo-doo? Anyways, the restrooms installed in the park are designed to allow those in need of the facilities to go quickly determine their cleanliness and whether they are already occupied. Hold on. If you're using it, isn't it going to show? Anyways, there's two things we worry about when we enter a public restroom, especially those located in the parks. Tokyo's Toilet Project's website stated the first is cleanliness, and the second is whether anyone is inside. The walls change from transparent to frosted opaque when the door lock is activated. This allows users to check the cleanliness and whether anyone is using the toilet from the outside. At night, the facilities light up the park in a beautiful, like lantern. Users said remembering to lock the doors is of extra importance since a user inside the facility can't tell whether the walls appear transparent or frosted from the outside. Each of the two facilities includes a men's toilet, a women's toilet, and a mixed-use toilet. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? So, anyways, back on this side of the pond, a police officer was in need of assistance after firefighters found that he accidentally was bound by his own handcuffs. Yeah, this happened over in Britain. The Northamptonshire Fire Police Rescue Service tweeted a crew used a pedal cutter to release a police officer who had his hands stuck in his own handcuffs. Yeah, Police Sergeant Scott Renwick, the Region's Corps Training Sergeant, revealed that there's a little bit of embarrassment going on. Well, that wasn't a good start to the day, he said on Twitter, thanks to @NorthantFire for cutting me out of some broken cuffs. Hashtag not funny. I would have laughed too. Yes, be careful of your own handcuffs. A man has been accused of faking his own kidnapping in Mississippi to extort money from his father who lives in Virginia. Nice kid. Real nice kid. Yeah, the investigation began when Andrew Blake Hawk's father told deputies he had received a video call that showed his son tied against a tree with a gun pointed to his head. Hawk's father told investigators the incident happened in Lee County and that alleged kidnappers had demanded money in exchange for his son's life. When they did not receive the money by the deadline the same day, deputies said the alleged kidnappers threatened to cut off Hawk's fingers and fired gunshots that led his father to believe Hawk's was killed. Later that evening, the suspects were told the money had been transferred through Western Union. Police did not disclose how much money Hawk's was trying to receive. However, when investigators arrived at the store where the money would be picked up, guess who was there? Oh yeah, you guessed it. It was the son. Who does that to their parents? Honestly, who does that to their parents? Sick. Absolutely sick. Anyways, deputies said his accomplice, David Fisher, was in the store shopping at the time. He was also arrested. The both have been charged with extortion. Moving on, shall we? Let's. All right. I don't agree with this. I really don't. I'll tell you why. If I can speak. Excuse me. If you win a lottery, like millions, I think there should be a timeline on when you can play again and win. So, this couple in Nova Scotia, 7 years ago, won $2.4 million in the Atlantic Lottery. So what do? They keep playing because they like their lottery tickets. And lo and behold, they have hit the millions once again. This time, 13.2 million. Now, I'm all for people, buy your tickets. If that's what you like to do, go for it. However, Raymond Littlington of Dingwall said friends were making fun of him for continuing to play the lottery after winning the big bucks on the Lotto 649 in 2013. I still played, he said. You'll never win again, I said. Of course I will. But that was a joke. I never imagined that it could actually happen. Winning twice is what makes this so hard to believe. What are the odds? I could have never expected this, and it's so much money that it's hard to absorb that information. The couple said their first jackpot went towards a new home, new vehicles, traveling, and making their retirement comfortable. Then, they said this latest prize will allow them to share generously with their children and grandchildren. Our kids are even more mesmerized than we are. We just can't believe it, Lillington says. My oldest texted me 1,000,000 times today. He can't eat. He can't sleep. The kids just can't believe it's real. That's because it shouldn't be. All right? There are other people there. You won 2.5. You hit the lottery the first time, pun intended. All right? There are people in this country who are begging for a miracle. Begging. And you kept going. And you won again. It's great that you're going to donate to your children and your grandchildren, pay for college or whatever it may be. Either way. Not a fan of it. Not a fan. A pair of identical twin sisters who married identical twin brothers have announced that they're both pregnant. Brittany and Brianna Salyers, who met their husbands Josh and Jeremy at the 2017 Twins Day Festival in Twinsburg, Ohio, and were married in a TLC special, have announced on their joint Instagram that they are all pregnant. Our children will not only be cousins, but full genetic siblings and quaternary multiples. Can't wait to meet them and for them to meet each other, the post said. The couples live together in the same home, and the sisters previously said that they had hoped to become pregnant at the same time and give birth on the same day. Okay. So an airplane attempted to land at a Russian airport, but was delayed for 20 minutes in the air. Why? There was a bear wandering around the runway. The S-7 Airlines flight out of Novosibirsk was coming in for a landing at the airport in Magadan when the flight spotted a bear on the tarmac. The crew spotted the bear while about 500 feet, allowing for the flight to adjust and circle around the airport. The plane made a second landing attempt about 20 minutes later, and everything happened safely. The bear, by the way, was moved from the runway and back into the forest. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where you ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Do. Oh, come on. This is a lot of fun. I love this song. What bugs you about today's ghost hunters? That's our question. Peter, most of them are opportunists looking to make a buck. Stop watching these ridiculous shows years ago. Nothing but fake. Cherry, it seems cliquish. Juan, what doesn't? Jules, the gorgeous Jules. They are usually there for stirring things up and their own jollies, and that can be harmful. Quinoa, it really bothers me when they finally hear something, freak out, and run away. That's what you were looking for. Why are you running? Also, they don't ever help any spirits move on and assume any shadow person is evil. So basically, all the stereotypes irk me. Audra, are you talking about TV ghost hunters? Don't watch, always dumb, should be for profit. People just curious and doing their own thing. Be smart, be respectful, be kind, and be careful. Dang it. Joseph, all the shows seem staged fake right now. They feel overacted and like things are added in, enhanced, or edited these days. Lindsay, everything about Ghost Adventures. It was a good first few seasons, but Zach really needs to take acting lessons. Plus, he's a real beep. Oh, Lindsay, that's bad language. Bad language. But we'll love you anyways for that. John, too much fame and glory seeking is involved these days. I would agree with that. HL, the ego. With little results, common hunters, facts needed, not your fancy hoodie brands. Corrance, different Corey. The Paranormal Files or Proving Demons are the only ones I watch now, and those are on YouTube. Don, they are not interesting enough to get me to watch them. I'm not talking paranormal TV here, man. What's with everybody wanting to talk TV? Debbie, all of TV paranormal should bother many. I will not watch it. Davey, the use of infrared. It attracts beings at the end of the spectrum. Caden doesn't like the egos. Nicole, what bugs me about ghost hunting is whenever supposed ghost hunters run around being rude and combative towards spirits, trying to force a reaction or answer. Too much showmanship, not enough actual data collected. Ryan, you don't hunt ghosts because they're not wild animals and they can't be killed in a second time. Thanks, Ryan. Have a shave for the first time. Kelly, not enough data collection and way too much chutzpah to try and make their show seem more interesting. Donna, that they're just as idiotic as yesterday's idiots. Oh, that's nice. Barry, simple that none of them have any formal education in the field of science, such as physics, medicine, engineering, psychology, and last but not least, parapsychology. If one does not know how the physical world they live in really works, how can they even speculate about the paranormal one? Well, that's a huge comment. The gorgeous Jessica, they insult the intelligence of the once living. Robert, their lack of knowledge, skills, and professional attitudes. Bobby, they can never show evidence because they refuse to use a professional taxidermist. Park, they found their niche. Instead of collecting Japanese samurai swords or working at medieval fairs as extras, they found the paranormal. What truly lends them credence is the sheer amount of tribal tattoos they all seem to have, I guess. That's thanks to the internet. Anyone can be anything. You don't even have to fake it until you make it anymore. You're just an instant researcher. It's pretty funny to watch. Tom, they're not willing to put in the work. They think they're real investigators because they watch a few shows and then they go to a haunted location. Kira, most are focused on ego and looking the part, not in touch with the spiritual side of things. Richard, too many people want to focus on the woo-woo rather than the basics like good investigative skills. Serena, spirit taunting. WTF, they're people still inconsiderate, just wrong. And Karen Smurl from the Smurl Family Haunting, we'll end it with her. She says, the fact that the ones without shows get mad at the ones with shows because they forget that the ones on TV are put there for entertainment purposes. TV equals entertainment per the people making the money. The ones out there really, truly helping people are the ones, not the ones on TV. Have you ever seen one of them actually help a family or location? Nope. It's haunted, because here's the evidence we caught. Good luck and goodbye. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. Captain Shirk for the news. Merle, Gina, and Victoria for the show tonight on Ghosts of the Great White North. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody in our chat rooms tonight, especially YouTube and Spreaker. Thank you to everybody on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio for hanging on out and showing us your beautiful snark.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
Make a mistake, we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
Expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere. Watching
The Woo train has docked for the night, but tomorrow we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, guess what? We have room for them too. Good night. Brutal ending. Losing my voice like that. It's always that like one little scratchy area that cuts everything out and then sends you into a coughing spree. I don't like that. Then your nose gets all runny and now you can't breathe because you got nose goblins. Hate that. Hate that. Drives me nuts. Oh. Hi, Cherie. We'll call you tomorrow. Oh, man. Oh, wrong one. What's that? Where am I? That's the one I want. Oh, goodness. I closed the window that I need. Son of a gun. All right, while this is downloading, I'll be right back, okay? I'll be right back. Gotta blow my nose. All right, I'm back. And we'll make that Dropbox. We'll make this we transfer. And we'll move these over here. Move these over here. Now, if I can find my file, I'll be okay. Put that in the recycling bin. Move that one over there. And where's my spots? There they are. Do 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 do. Oh, my voice is still screwed from that. I know, I haven't sent them yet. Send me the address again. For some reason, Fabster, I can't seem to find it. I was looking for it last week. I do have the beard. I will do that, Cat Chaser. I will do that. Part of the issue is I do a lot of talking during the day. So by the time I get here to the night, my voice is fried. That's part of the problem. Do 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 do. No, just some technical stuff on the back end that we're working on. So we're not demonetized because we've done something wrong. It's just we had some paperwork we needed to fill out. What are you talking about there, Spookles? What am I missing? Do 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 do. All right, Fabster, I'll get it done. Oh, yeah, that stuff is different from what I'm talking about, Spookles. We had to get some sort of PIN number from YouTube, so I'm going to try and give them a call tomorrow. Otherwise, I got to wait 2 to 4 weeks for one to show up in the mail. It was more on the business side of things, not with what you were doing. Hi, Susan B. Oh, damn it. Where is that file hiding? There it is. Excuse me. Do 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 do. 826-048, people. 826-048. It's your lucky verification code. The verification code is to help me upload to the radio stations. Good job, Oob. What's the password for? Exactly. I am done. Done my downloading. So on that note, I'm going to go give my voice a rest and have it better for tomorrow. Tomorrow night on the show, Chris Balzano comes in. We're going to talk like the Bridgewater Triangle and a lot of weird stuff on the East Coast. So we're going to have some fun. And he's a great guy, great speaker. I think you'll really enjoy him. I had him on about 4 years ago. And I think you'll really enjoy him.